scoops.
Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. Sorry, I feel like laughing here. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome to another episode of Double Scoops. And as you can see, I have Davey Deffrey with me today. How are you doing, Davey?
Doing great, Barry. Always a pleasure to collab with you. So yeah, really pumped to have another Double Scoops chat here.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're with me because if it wasn't for you, this episode wouldn't be happening right now because I genuinely thought that this was an 8 p.m. kickoff. For you, that would be 12 p.m., I guess.
Yeah.
And then you messaged me at like 5 minutes past saying, like, have you got the link for this? I'm like, yeah, be cool. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's 7 p.m. it starts, as in 11 a.m. your time.
Yeah.
So I was scrambling to get ready. So, guys, it's not Davey's fault, even though I did say it in the chat that it's Davey's fault. It's actually my fault that we're a little bit behind schedule. So apologies for that. I was ready as well. I just didn't have my lighting set up or anything. But I'm ready to go. Ready to go.
Hell
so
yeah.
it's all good. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Halloween 4. Now, I personally love Halloween 4. I genuinely thought, maybe David does, but I genuinely thought David loved Halloween 4 to the point where it's maybe one of his favorites. But when I asked Davey what he wants to talk about on this episode of Double Scoops, he's like, why don't we do Halloween 4? I'm like, yeah, sounds good. And then he's like, why it might be overrated. And I'm like, hold on a minute. What do you mean overrated? So I didn't ask Davey anything else after that. I thought, let's discuss it in today's video because I think it will be a really good and interesting topic. But Davey, before we
Yeah.
get into Halloween 4, it is spooky season. Halloween's just around the corner. What have you been getting up to this October?
So, I mean, really busy on the channel, of course, like everyone who, covers horror content. I think I learned this year because last year I was still so fresh that
Yeah.
I didn't worry about putting together anything special for spooky season, really. And this year I'm like, oh man, next summer I have to like record all of my pre-recorded stuff. And then that way it frees me up for lives, doing lives on my channel, hopping on over to, your channel and others. And I've been watching some movies that I haven't seen ever. I caught a handful of movies, in September and early this month. So finally got around to watching Mike Flanagan's Hush. Finally watched that one for the very first time. Really dug that. Watched Hell House LLC. I'm kind of lukewarm on that. I don't know. Maybe found footage is just not really my thing. I don't know. But yeah, just been catching up on some, horror movies that I've just yet to see. So, yeah, just kind of trying to make that the theme while still working in movies like, Pumpkinhead, which I love. And of course, the Halloween movies and all that kind of stuff too. So just really busy sitting on the couch and then also really busy sitting on the channel. How about you, man?
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm catching up in films that I've not seen ever, like as in old movies. And then watching, I'm kind of trying to catch up on the movies from 2024 as well, because there's been times I've not been able to get to the cinema, waiting for digital release. So just waiting for these films to come out in digital. So I've been quite busy doing some recordings. I do have the house to myself for 7 days, all to
Oh,
myself,
nice.
because my wife and kids are away to Spain right now, and they won't be back until, in fact, before they get back, I should say, I'll be away to Manchester, England for the convention for the Love of Horror. So I won't see my family
Nice.
for nearly 2 weeks.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm all on my lonesome right now. That's why I've got a couple of live streams lined up. I done one a couple of days ago with Sister Pam, who does a lot of
Yeah.
screen content. Then it's you. And then tomorrow, I'm supposed to be on with Drum Dums, Lee McCoy. However, I need to wait to see how he is because of the whole weather, the hurricanes and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's still happening as we speak, but I just want to make sure he's okay before he tries to try and do a live stream, because that would be maybe unethical of me to expect that to happen. So that's currently planned. And then I've got a few days after that, I've got a live stream with Chris Stanley.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
we're doing A Nightmare on Elm Street because it's a 40th anniversary in November.
Nice.
So we'll be talking about that. We all know that Chris loves his Freddy Krueger. So yeah, just kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
doing all that. Just going back there to Hill House LLC.
Mhm.
I'm kind of similar to you. I thought the first movie was actually okay, but I think the best one in that franchise, if you haven't seen it, maybe check it out, is the Carmichael Manor, which is the fourth one, I
I think
think,
it's the
maybe.
4th one. Yeah, it's basically a prequel, or it shows, like,
Yeah.
what happened that
hmm
turned that, hotel or whatever into a haunted spot.
Have you seen it?
Um,
Have you seen it yet? No.
no, but I've heard
No.
so many people have told me it's the best one. Like,
Yeah.
Christian from Planet CHH was like, "I think it's the best one in the series."
Yeah.
I haven't seen many found footage movies, like, I've never seen any of the Paranormal Activities. You know, I've seen Blair Witch, Cloverfield, Diary of the Dead, like, I've seen a handful of them. You
Mhm.
know? I just sometimes I think, like, I'd rather watch, because to me, found footage movies, they all seem like slow burns. Like, just by that's the way the genre works, because the whole thing is to sort of lull you into this, "Oh, this is real life," and then something creepy happens, and it's supposed to, really give you a
Mhm.
charge. But, I guess I'd rather just watch, like, a regular narrative that's a slow burn, that has those creepy moments. I'm okay with watching a movie that looks like a movie. A found footage movie is never gonna trick me into thinking that it's something that's real. I mean,
I don't,
even by
yeah.
the time that I saw Blair Witch, the original Blair Witch, in the theater, and I know you've talked about this, before, but it's one of those things where it's like, we all knew that it was, fake by the time I went and saw it in the theater,
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, like, I don't know, maybe found footage just isn't for me, but I'm
It's
not gonna
not for
give up
everyone.
on it.
Yeah, it's definitely a gimmick that not everyone either falls for or is something that they like. So yeah, I can understand that. Um, there is a film though that I watched last night that I won't be doing a review for. I don't feel like it's necessary, but I watched a film called Last Straw, which came out this
Mm,
year. Have you heard of that?
no.
No, it's a little sleeper hit, a little horror movie about this girl who is a manager of a diner, and she's getting attacked by teenagers that are surrounding the diner, and she has to try and survive the night. I won't spoil it for
Mm,
anyone who's maybe interested in it, but it's called Last Straw, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. So I'm just working my way through films that don't get a lot of attention. Some of them I'll be doing a review for. Some of them I'm
mhm.
just kind of go, we'll just leave it at that, you know. But
Yeah.
it's not too bad. Have you saw anything that maybe no one's heard of, or you won't be even discussing?
I've been doing I did like a live version of this show that I had on the early days of my channel called I Finally Watched It, where I just covered the stuff that, I had recently watched. So some of
Mhm.
them are a little bit older, like I just watched The Rental from 2020 recently, and I
All right.
really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that's
That was one of those movies that sort of kept me guessing the whole time, and then I felt like I felt like the actual payoff and the last little bit of the movie even made it better and made it one of those movies that you could sort of like rewatch once you know exactly how everything shook out.
yeah.
Not that that's one that I don't hear many people talking about it.
Yeah, same.
Um, but I thought it was pretty impressive, especially, when you see that Dave Franco directed it. I'm always curious whenever somebody that's like, I know them as an actor, but maybe they're not the most massive actor, and then they go to direct and they do something that's like really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Not going to do, I don't do many reviews on my channel, so usually I just kind of talk casually about the movies I've seen and
Mhm.
sort of pick my spots for what kind of reviews. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what this spooky season brings. I'm still back and forth on whether or not I'm going to go check out Terrifier 3. But
Oh,
everyone's already put out their reviews, so there's no point in me throwing my review out there into, the all the static that's out there at the time. But
well, yeah, if you are a fan of gore, then Terrifier 3 is definitely for you. And it's
yeah.
got a good story as well. So I think story and
Okay.
horror-wise, it's good. Really good. One of the better horror films of the year, I would say. I wouldn't want to give away my ranking for it or anything, but it's one of the better horror films, I would say, personally, for the
Nice.
year. I got this little thing for the door yesterday, for the post. It's a
Uh-huh.
it's called a small rig, and it's just a little light. I'm going to show you in action, right?
All right.
So it's just I won't flash it in your eyes. So it's got different modes on it, but it's also got this is a flame mode, so you can see it
Oh,
flickering.
gotcha. It's got a little pulse. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but
nice.
there's other things that's quite cool. Like police.
Oh, shoot.
It's
There you
got
go.
emergency services, fire truck. ambulance.
That's amazing.
Strobe.
That's
Really,
like you could use that to while making a short movie. You could
yeah,
use that just to simulate like, oh, there's a, we don't even have a cop car, but there it is, just from the
there's
light. That's pretty cool.
this is fireworks. Uh, if you're in a club, maybe I'll do like a Blade 4. So yeah, I don't know why I'm showing you guys this, but it's pretty cool. Little
It is
nifty
pretty cool.
little thing. And I'll be
I
using
love
that.
it.
I actually used it in my Terrifier video. I put it behind the pumpkin and I put a little flame behind it so you could see it looks
Oh,
like
nice.
the pumpkin's lighting up. So
Hell yeah.
that's that.
We got
Anyway,
some cool folks hanging out with us here in the chat. I see
yeah,
Cody Snyder, Liana's hanging out,
I'm just going
Dean
to
Renner.
I'll go into the chat just now and then we'll start talking about Halloween. So let's see who's in the
Sweet.
chat. So first of all, it's me, Davey, late as always. I'll explain soon. So I've already explained that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you're gonna want to check that time on your Drum Dum stream just to make sure.
I know, I need to double check that now. Wade F. and Wilson, Barry and Davey, let's go. Yep, let's go. My chunky
What's happening,
Geordie's
Wade?
here.
Gina.
Flesh Suit Man, howdy.
Flesh
Howdy.
Suit Man.
Yes. Solvent said, big ups, the October week holiday in Scotland. Hope your kids enjoy Spain. Yeah, I've been talking to them every day. They've been sending me videos and stuff. Nice and warm. That's good for them. Jordan said, Barry, I'll be round the now. The now means just now. So, because I've got an empty, they call it.
Oh, gotcha.
Sister Pam's in the chat. Hi, sister. Hi, sister. Hi, Pam. Hi, Barry. Hi, Davey. Halloween 4 definitely not overrated. Well,
we'll see.
We'll get into that, yeah. Dave Vanderhoff's here. Hello, Barry and Davey.
What's happening, Dave?
Cody Snyder's here. Top of the morning. Top of the evening to you. Yeah, 1:33 p.m. where you are. You still got the full day to yourself. Who else have we got? Dean Renner. What's going on, everyone? Leanna Beveridge. Hey, Cody. Done driving? Cody's driving. Don't be driving and typing.
He's a driving man.
Oh, yeah. He's going through Oklahoma just now. Wow. So many places.
Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah. You're singing that? There's so many places in the US I'd love to visit. The first place I will be going is California in 2028 for the
H50.
H50, yep.
Have you ever been to the States once?
Nope. Never.
Oh, yeah.
Never, ever.
Yeah. It's wild, man. It's like, growing up where I grew up all the way up in Alaska, I felt like, I thought of every state in the United States like it was just like, oh, every state's going to look totally different. And it's all this magical place. Like I had all this stuff built up in my head. And then, when I moved to what we call the lower 48, when you're in Alaska, that's what you call everything else, except for Hawaii. Yeah. I, drive around going on tour, playing music and all that stuff. And I'm like, every state's got like water, plains, mountains, and like desert. It seems like I was like, these places all look the same to me. That's why they can shoot in California and make it look like Illinois or wherever, or shoot in Vancouver and make it look like California,
Yeah. But that's the same if here in the UK. We've got like 4 countries in the UK. So that's similar to you guys with states. So let's pretend we've got 4 states in the UK. We've got Wales, Northern Ireland, England, and Scotland. And you would expect them all to look differently. You would expect to go from England, and then as soon as you get to Scotland, it's all haggis and redhead people and castles and kilts. And it's not like that. You're just driving through the road, and it's like, am I in England yet? I'm in Scotland yet? It's just the exact same. So
it's just green and rainy.
That's it. I feel you. So it's the same. Who else have we got? We've got Shay Ranson. Hey guys, just popping in to say hi.
What's happening, Shay?
T. Parker Evans is here. Is here. Hey y'all, Evil dies in 19 days. Yes, 19 days to Halloween. Can you believe it? And don't worry.
Up on us.
Yeah, don't worry though. Cody's phone is on a mount.
That's what's up.
Good to hear it. Wade F. and Wilson says, Northern Ireland here. We're just dull weather, horrible accents. No, Irish accents, great. I love the Irish accent. It's the only accent in the world that I cannot do. I can do lots of accents all around the world, but I cannot do an Irish accent, whether it be Northern Ireland or Republic. Just can't do it. This is Tom's World says, hey there, my friend. Or friends, because there's 2 today. Yeah. We're all cut up.
This is Tom's World.
This is
I don't know. What is the difference? Is there a difference really between Northern Ireland and Republic accents? Are they, because even I think the Welsh accent sounds sort of Irish to me. Maybe that's not
um,
something I should be saying. Because
no.
Kurt and Jenks from Twisted
What's happening,
Locker, there they
boys?
are. I was like, I thought I was like, oh, are you guys Irish or something? And then they're like, oh no, we're from Wales. And I'm like, man, it's just it's a subtlety in the accent, I
Mm,
think,
but to me, they're completely different. Like Welsh,
Sure.
Welsh sounds a little bit like Northern England, like Newcastle. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate someone from Newcastle and
Mm.
someone from Wales. I'm sure Jenks and the boy, Jenks and the boy, uh,
Jenks that'd be a
Jenks and
great
the boy.
channel
I'm sure
name.
Jenks and the boy will be like, no, we sound nothing like Newcastle, but they do.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's probably one of those things too, like here in the States, there's like the California, the West Coast accent, which is kind of like what I've got, but then there's like the New York, New Jersey, and then there's the
Mhm.
Midwest, and then there's like the Texan accent and whatever they talk in Florida. I don't even know if they have accents there. Yeah.
Floridian, Floridian.
Floridian accent.
I
I
don't know.
love I love it though. To me, I find accents fascinating. And I love like the different idioms and everything like that in language, especially like for the other English speaking languages that just use totally different turns of phrases.
Yeah,
That stuff's fun. I dig it.
yeah. I like it. I was listening to Damien Leone talking about Terrifier 3, the director, and I didn't
Hmm.
realize, but he's from New York, and I think he's maybe Boston or something because his accent. I love
Mm,
the Boston, like Boston accent. It's just
yeah,
the way they talk. I can't sometimes I can't really tell if they're from like New Jersey or Boston.
it's so
Like,
tough.
yeah,
It
because they all sound similar, but there's a difference there.
Mhm.
You know?
There's even I think even in New York, it's like people that grow up in Brooklyn versus people that grow up in Staten Island. So it's like even depending on which borough you're from in New York, you might have a
Mhm.
different accent, you
Yeah,
know? And then of course, like what kind of cultural background you come from. Like, are you, did you grow up like in a Italian family where everyone still has that thick kind of accent that you hear like in The Sopranos or
yeah,
something?
yeah.
Or and then I meet people from New York that just sound like this, that just seem unaffected by the
That,
accent. It's
that's true.
bizarre.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true as well. Yeah, but enough about accents. Although
Yeah.
I do love accents. Um, oh, before we get in, we've got a couple more. I meant to say this. Northern Ireland is like Liam Neeson's
Mm,
accent, and then Ireland
okay.
is like Colin Farrell. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I can totally hear that.
Yeah. Don Keats says, "Hello, guys. I found this channel from watching Jenks and Kurt. I'm from Merseyside. Support the Reds, of course. There we go. The Reds being Aberdeen. I'm
All
just
right.
joking. I'm just joking.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is the Reds, is that a soccer thing?
Well,
Soccer.
the Reds would well, the Red Devils would be Man United, but I don't know if she means
Mm,
Man United, Manchester United, or Liverpool. But
mhm.
because she's near Curtin Jenks, I'm guessing Liverpool. Yeah, it's Liverpool. Anyway,
It's Jenks and the boy, right?
Jenks and the boy. Yeah, Jenks and the boy. I don't know. It must be Jenks that's talking. I'm sure. Not too sure if it's Jenks or the boy.
Let us
Eh,
know.
yeah, Liverpool. Sorry, Don. I just insulted you there by saying Manchester United. Anyway,
And I insulted everyone by talking about accents.
yeah. Well, no, not at all. We love accent as long as people say as long as people don't say I don't understand you. Speak English.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
obviously rude, but I love all accents.
Yeah.
Accents are fascinating to me. Absolutely love them. So
Hmm.
anyway, let's move on to Halloween 4.
Yeah.
Now, it's an interesting one because I genuinely don't know your thoughts on Halloween 4, but we'll get through it as we go along. Um, but first, we'll start with the memories of Halloween 4. We'll treat it like one of my anniversary episodes that I do,
Okay.
and we'll talk about our memories. So I'll ask you first. Do you remember the first time you watched Halloween 4?
I remember the first time that I saw like I think I caught some of it on TV because I watched my first experience with Halloween was Halloween 2. It must have been like 91 or 92, like on the USA Network when I was a kid. So I was about 9 or 10 years old.
Mhm.
And yeah, I saw Halloween 2 first. And then I think they played Halloween 1 after for some reason. They did this weird scheduling thing. But that was like right around the time that I think they were debuting Halloween 4 like on television at that time. So my very first experience with it, was watching it on TV. And being a little kid, not too, right around the same age that Danielle Harris was in the film as well. So,
Mhm.
Definitely a movie that I was already, Michael sucked me in already with Halloween 2 in the first movie. And then, this extra layer of having, sort of the main character being somebody my age just brought
Mhm.
me in even more. And, at that age, it was just like, I'll take everything I can get, whatever Michael Myers movies I can watch, like I'm going to watch them. So, really good memories, watching the movie as a kid. And then, of course, renting it from the video store later on. And I had the toughest time like determining which was which movie between Halloween 4 and 5 because they both used the original mask on the like artwork. And so I thought that was sort of a dirty trick. And I was like, wait, which one is the one that I like and which one is the one I like less? Because, at that age, you like it all.
Yeah.
So that's one of those memories that stands out to me as a kid is like holding them both at the video store and being like, which one do I rent? And then being either disappointed or elated when I got home
Yeah.
and put it in.
It's obviously we're around about the same age, but I've got the exact same thoughts as you, like looking at those covers, and I'm like, oh, but what one was it again? Where
Yeah.
like they're on the roof. What is it, 4 or 5? I just couldn't tell you. And even when you look at the back covers, I'm like, I still don't really know
Mm.
which one
Mm-hmm.
was which. So yeah, I've got the same kind of memories as that. Now I did watch Halloween 4 and 5 when I was a kid, but didn't take them in. They were just on TV. But when I really took it in was after Halloween H2O. I think H2O opened a lot of people's eyes to the franchise again, similar
Mm-hmm.
to what Halloween 1 and 2 maybe done back in the 70s and 80s. But when H2O came out, I loved it, and I thought I need to go back and watch all the other Halloween films. So track them all down from friends or whatever, and I ended up watching Halloween 4 and 5 almost back to back. And the massive difference between both of them, we'll come to that, but
Mm.
the massive difference between both of the films was unbelievable. But
Yeah.
then since then, I never got Halloween 4 or Halloween 5 mixed up again.
Yeah.
Uh, I definitely knew which one was the one to watch and what one was the one to avoid. So yeah, that's kind of my memories as well. So I would say maybe 1999 was when it was implanted in my brain, but I did genuinely watch it years before that, but just
Mm-hmm.
not take it in because I was probably 10 at the time, or maybe
Yeah.
in single figures, maybe in 8 or 9. But yeah.
And I even had like this moment in my life where I don't know what if I was just more into doing sports or whatever. And I'm sure I was watching movies, but wasn't, diving into it as much. But then, yeah, probably right around that high school age, that's when I discovered like or watched Night of the Living Dead for the first time and The Evil Dead. And then, of course, yeah, H2O came out. And I was the one friend in my group of friends back in Juneau that was like, let's go to Blockbuster and like rent Halloween 4 or 5 and Curse of Michael
Yeah.
Myers and like let's watch them all. Like I was that kind of guy that wanted to put my friends through that and sort of try to get them into it as well. So I have a lot of memories of revisiting those movies, especially Curse at that time,
Yeah.
watching Curse
Oh,
quite a bit, the
wow.
theatrical cut. So
You're a
you know,
sucker for punishment there.
you
That
don't know any
reminds me.
better when you're young.
Well, of
You're like
course.
16. You're like whatever.
Of course, yeah. That reminds me though, I did watch your video with Twisted Locker, and you put me in the mood for Land of the Dead. So I've got Land of the Dead ready to watch this week at some point. I'll just
Nice.
watch it myself. But yeah, looking forward to checking that out again because I haven't seen it since buying the Blu-ray back in 2008, I
Mm.
think.
Oh
So
wow.
it's been a good 15, 16 years since I last watched Land of the Dead. Went to the cinema to see it as well. So I've seen it
Mhm.
twice, but I don't remember anything about it. So it'll be good. Looking forward to that. So
I think that's a great like spooky season time of the year movie. And I do think Land of the Dead, man, it's I enjoy it a little bit more every time. I was kind of
mhm.
down on it my first time, but yeah, it really came around. I enjoy that one.
Yeah, I'll need to watch it again just to make that kind of. I mean, even Diary of the. I remember liking Diary of the Dead at the time,
Hmm.
and being kind of underwhelmed with Survival of the Dead. But I'll give them
Yeah.
a rewatch you know, you
Yeah.
never know. Maybe I like them a little bit more. Excuse me. Right, I'm just going to go quickly back into the chat just to catch up because there's quite a few people chatting. Oh, it's the boy. It's not. It's not Jigs. It's the boy. How are you doing, boy? Let's just go through these. Blah, blah, blah. So T. Parker Evans said Halloween 4 was my introduction to the franchise when I was 6. So it had a special place in my heart. And that's something that I talk about this all the time. When people talk about nostalgia, someone
Yeah.
says, I love this movie because it's nostalgic to me. And then
Mhm.
you'll get people commenting saying, oh, that's no reason to love a film. And I'm like, well, yes, it is. Like,
Yeah.
nostalgia is probably the strongest thing that we have to love an older film. So
Yeah.
when you watch a specific Halloween movie for the first time, that's always going to hold a special place in your heart. I done a
Mhm.
Halloween 5 anniversary video last week, and I was surprised and shocked as to how many people loved Halloween 5, even though I don't. But 9 times out of 10, the reason they loved it is because that's the first Halloween they watched. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's acceptable. That's absolutely fine. Because they do appreciate that it's not a really well-made film, but they love it because it's nostalgic to them. So
Yeah.
I completely appreciate that, T. Parker. So I'm assuming then that'll be one of his favorites.
Yeah, I'm the same way with music too. I think like with art or just anything like that that you experience,
Hmm.
you know, at a young age, it just
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, it holds that place for sure.
Same. But people might laugh at me for this, but the mid 90s was when I loved music the most. So I would always watch MTV. It would be on
Mhm.
24 hours a day. And my favorite song from that time was Bon Jovi, Always. And to this day, Bon Jovi's song Always is my favorite song of all time. Every time I press play on that video, the music video, it takes me back to
Yeah.
1995, 94. I could smell my old house. I could see the sunshine in the summer. It was great. And it was at number one for
Yeah.
15 weeks in the European top 20.
Wow.
So there you go. Special
Yeah.
place. So nostalgic. Nostalgia plays a part in everything,
Yeah.
I guess.
It's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it's a hell of a drug. Um, let's see. Oh, already read that one. Sorry. Gorguts said massively overrated. 4, 5, and 6 are all almost as bad as Ends. Well, that's a good thing because Ends is a masterpiece. So if they're almost
Yeah.
as bad as Ends, then they're almost as good as Ends. So I'm happy with
Yeah.
that. There you go.
It's slim margins sometimes in the Halloween franchise,
Oh
depending
yeah.
on who you're talking to.
It is funny though, like you get someone that says Halloween Ends is not only the worst Halloween film, but it's the worst movie of all time.
Mm. Yeah.
Obviously, I've not seen a lot. But then you get someone that says Halloween Ends is the best Halloween film, not only the best Halloween film, but the best movie of all time. So I
It's all
think
over the place.
it's too extreme. I think if you sit down and say, right, what would I score the acting? What would I score
Mhm.
the score? What would I score Michael? What would I score the kills? If you really pinpoint everything in a film, then you can kind of marginalize. Like The
Yeah.
Godfather, I always give Godfather as an example. I don't like The Godfather. I don't think it's a good film. But if I score the acting out of 10, the score, the cinematography, they're all getting
Yeah.
tens, but gangster movies are just not for me. So
Yeah.
The Godfather's probably a perfect 10 if I had to score it, but still don't like it. It's
Yeah.
random, but that's if you're being totally honest with yourself, Halloween Ends is nowhere near the worst film in the world or the Halloween
Or
franchise.
in the franchise. Yeah.
Yeah. So come on, be reasonable. Again, it's still their opinion, and it's fine. It's
Sure.
not to worry
As
about.
long as people can explain why. I think that's one of the big
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
And I feel like, you know, a lot of people just don't like the story, or it just makes them feel like, you know, they didn't get the ending that they wanted.
mhm,
But yeah, I mean, I think Ends is really good. I'm starting a series on that I'm going to do live on my channel that's called How to Make It Better, where I'm going
mhm.
to go through the David Gordon Green trilogy and dissect each one and all the changes that I would make. And I've got some surprises for people tuning in. I'm
Oh
really
yeah,
excited to show that off. So
mhm.
if you're not subbed over to my channel, you might want to check it out because that'll be starting this Tuesday.
Nice. I'll need to check that out. Me and my friend done um, what we would change about Halloween trilogy. We done it in a professional studio. Fantastic. It's
Hmm.
really nice, big podcast studio that we done it in. and had a lot of fun with that, and it lasted like nearly 2 hours. But yeah, I'll check that out to see what you would do differently as well.
I watched
Um,
that video, I really enjoyed it, and,
oh, did you?
I'm gonna make sure that because I like, the seed of the idea was already in my head, and then I saw that you did it, and I'm like, "Damn," and I'm like, "But I've got, like, different ideas."
Mm.
So, no shame on, putting something like that together.
Nobody should ever feel like they shouldn't do a video that either myself have already done or somebody else has already
Yeah,
done. If you feel like passionate about doing a video that someone's already done, you have to do it. You know,
sure.
you can't say, "Oh, I'm not going to do that now because somebody else has done it." But somebody's done something on YouTube. There's if you search
Exactly.
"Spider does a dance on a piano," it will come up. So like you're always going to see a video there. So you should never not do a video because somebody else has done it. But I'll definitely check that out. Um, this is Tom's World said, I am on a podcast that reviews horror movies. I believe this week we are doing Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Kind of controversial with fans of the franchise. Not as controversial as it was maybe 20 years ago, I would say, Tom. But
Yeah.
I think more people are coming around to the idea of Season of the Witch being quite unique. But
Yeah, it's great. I
at
think
the
it's
time,
awesome.
people are like, "Where's Michael Myers? This is rubbish
Mhm.
because Myers is not in it." It's the same effect with Halloween Ends. They're saying, "Where's Michael Myers? I want Michael Myers. Stabby, stabby,
Yeah.
stabby." But again, over time, I think people will come around. Do you feel the same?
I do. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that'll be interesting to see what the generation of Halloween fans that are kids right now, what they end up thinking about
Mhm.
Halloween Ends, not having like been in the midst of the release and everything. And yeah, when
Yeah.
I was a kid and Halloween 3 would come on the television, I would just change the channel because I'd probably catch it in the middle of the movie. I didn't understand what was going on, and I was a child. So it's
Mhm.
not like I was sitting there thinking, "Oh, this movie's terrible." It was just like, "I'm confused. I'll wait until there's a movie with Michael on. I'll
Yeah.
tune back in."
Yeah. Um, my chunky Jordy says, I'm a little bit older than Danielle, so I could relate in Halloween 4 as I just lost my mum. Oh, that's a
Mm,
shame. She played Jamie very well. Yeah, it's like you said as well, Davey. You can resonate with characters that are your age, and it's something that we'd
mhm.
never seen before in the Halloween franchise. Having someone that we could relate to as a kid, watching the movie
Mhm.
as a kid as well. That's it's quite sad to hear as well. Really,
Yeah,
really sad.
Gina, I'm sorry.
Um, Flesh Suit Man said, "I think 3 is one of the best
Yeah.
Halloween movies." Yeah, it is. It's one of the best. It was probably one of the more unique ones anyway. We
Mhm.
don't get the usual Michael Myers stalk and slash. Um, Gorgat said, "Ends is definitely the worst in the franchise, but 4 and 5 come a somewhat distant second." Ooh,
Wow.
that's quite a top.
Resurrection exists though, right?
Yes, unbelievable. Well,
And then
I
there's
would say
Rob Zombie's remake that exists as well.
Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 exists. Ooh, Davey.
Oh, I like that one though.
I know. Well, I actually don't mind Rob Zombie's remake. It's I've
Yeah,
got a love hate with that one.
I guess I just don't see the point of it. But I do see the point of his sequel. Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm. That's another topic though.
I'm full of hot takes today. I can't wait. Like I'm simmering right now just thinking about Halloween 4, so it'll
Yeah.
be fun. What's happening, Eli?
Hey, like, what's up? You feel like the backwards man from Freddy Got Fingered? Don't know if you've seen that
Something
movie.
like I've seen it. It was years and years ago.
He wears a suit backwards and he's looking in the mirror and he's going, "I'm the backwards man, the backwards man." It's so stupid.
Oh, good old Tom Green.
Uh, Jordan Moran said, I keep forgetting to watch Just Before Dawn. Still not seen it. That's blasphemy, Jordan.
I haven't
Just,
seen it either.
oh, Just Before Dawn. It is, I'm not hyping it up here. It's the best backwoods slasher movie of all time. All time. Any movie featuring the woods, it's Just Before Dawn. That's the best.
All right.
Better than Deliverance. There you
Okay.
go. You heard it here first. Right, I'll go back to the chat student, guys. Again, they're still coming through. If you can talk amongst yourselves as well, it's great. Any
Yeah.
questions for me or Davey, then please ask away. So we'll get after we've already spoken about the memories of Halloween 4. the premise of Halloween 4, we've already said about Jamie being in it as a kid. She's the main
Mhm.
character alongside Rachel, who's the new final girl, the new protagonist. She's probably the main protagonist because she's the teen, but her and Jamie could probably share that title because they're
Mhm.
both kind of the main characters, I would say. When it comes to the story of Halloween 4, do you think it was the best thing to do at that point? Because Laurie isn't coming back, well, Jamie Lee Curtis isn't coming back, or do you think they should have maybe offered more money, held out a little bit longer? What are your thoughts with that?
Yeah, I don't, back then, I'm guessing they were putting this all together in like 87, right? So I bet that Jamie Lee Curtis was probably just not interested in
Yeah.
returning at all, unless John was directly involved. That's the only thing that I could see that would really bring her into it. And I think that, I totally understand why they went the route that they went with the story. I think essentially, one of the detriments of where they went with the story is ultimately, to me, it feels like a soft reboot. Basically feels like a remake. Just a couple of the things are switched around, but we see a very similar through line for Loomis as we saw in, the first two films, especially the first film. It's very similar,
Mhm.
and, Rachel is basically like your Laurie Strode. She's kind of a little bit of a goody two shoes. I mean, she at least has a guy in her life, but also she's no Kelly Meeker. She's not like throwing it around to keep the guy in her life. You know what I mean? I mean, Kelly Meeker, I wouldn't kick her out of bed for eating crackers. That's for sure. Um, it's like Billy Madison says, "So hot, want to touch the
Touch the
hiney."
hiney.
Ow! That's kind of the Kelly Meeker status. And so I do think that, this film does tries to do a couple things differently. But really it feels like that, it's been 10 years. The slasher craze has really popped off, but everyone's thinking about Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger at this point. So
Mhm.
this was Mustafa's way of reintroducing Michael in a way that just essentially, to me, the more that I watch it, feels like a remake,
Yeah.
essentially. And so I think that that's one of the reasons why it got knocked down, by the David Gordon Green movies, which are all in my top 5 favorite of the franchise. And so I think a movie like Halloween 4 just sort of it keeps on getting pushed down the list for me. And I do think it is overrated, because, man, I see a lot of people that say it's like their favorite or second favorite in the franchise. And I tell you what, if you guys treated Halloween 4 the same way that people treat the David Gordon Green movies and the way we scrutinize every little thing that seems like a little quirky or a little weird, if you put that same lens on Halloween 4, it just might destroy your childhood. So be careful because, man, I mean, even just there's technical mistakes, there's all sorts of stuff in this film that I think, today's audiences, if Halloween 4 The Return of Michael Myers came out in 2024, people would say it's the worst in the franchise because that's just the way that discourse goes these days. And they would pick things apart, like that terrible friggin' mask, man. That mask is like dreadful. The Don't even forget about the peach colored mask with the blonde hair. That's a pretty big oversight right there. Imagine if they did something like that in the David Gordon Green movies. If they just tried to slip by and be like, "Oh, don't worry about that little thing there," um, and then actually left it in the final cut. They didn't know we were going to dissect it here on Barry's channel, but we are.
Mhm.
So yeah, while I have a good time watching Halloween 4, I watch it every year. I might even watch it a couple times a year.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that I dislike the movie, but man, I think that it gets heralded a bit much for, the issues that it does have.
Well, we'll get into the way Michael looks in a few minutes, but
Yeah.
I agree with you in terms of it feels like a soft reboot of Halloween. However, I feel like it's a reboot in a different way. I feel like it's almost like look at Rob Zombie's Halloween. The first 30 minutes, 35 minutes is of young Michael Myers becoming
Mhm.
this evil. And I know you see Rachel as the new Laurie Strode, but I see her as Judith Myers, and I see little Jamie as Michael Myers, the young Michael Myers. And it's almost like it's showing you this is what would have happened with Michael had it been back in 1963. So you've got young Jamie, you got Rachel, they're getting stopped by their uncle or her uncle. Then she cracks, and then at the end of Halloween 4, you see her putting the mask on, going into her mum and killing her mum. Very similar or identical to what happens in 1963. And that's basically the beginning of Halloween 1 in 1978. So I feel as well, I agree with you. It does feel like a semi reboot. And it's almost like they've done that because they've asked Jamie Lee Curtis to come back. She's laughed in their face because she's a big star. And they thought, oh, we don't really want to recast Jamie Lee Curtis because I've been going through the Taking Shape books, and Laurie Strode was in a lot of the scripts. So the plans were Laurie Strode was going to come back, but Jamie Lee Curtis said, no chance, Lance. So they decided, let's introduce new characters, but let's get a character that's related to Laurie Strode so that Michael can come back and stalk in the same way he did in Halloween 2. Not 1, because he wasn't related, but in Halloween 2. So yeah, I agree. It's like a semi-remake, but I feel like that's one of its strengths, is because it takes what was so good about the first 2 movies and implements that into Halloween 4. And it gives us something that we'd never seen before in a kid who's 8 years old, 9 years old. And it just adds more depth to the film. Straight away, you feel sorry for this little girl because she's an orphan and Michael Myers is after her, you know?
Yeah. And the kids are terrible to her. The bullying is really rough. I did like that aspect. I think Danielle Harris's performance here is really, really strong.
Especially
And yeah,
that scene.
the ending, man. Yeah, when she's crying like next to the tree and wiping her tears away, like it's really moving stuff. And I do think the ending is one of the, most daring things they did in the franchise. It's just a damn shame that they sort of take it back to a degree in part 5. They don't really follow through with it in a way that it's like, if you're going to take that swing and have her be the killer, then, the way they followed it up. And I hate to say it, but I do, Halloween 5 came out a year later. And I do think that it sort of retroactively, kind of taints a little bit the legacy of Halloween 4, unfortunately, because what's coming up next. It's directly tied to it. It's basically like watching a 2-parter, those 2 movies. And yeah, I mean, I do think that ending is very strong for sure.
It's sort of like when you see Halloween H2O and then Resurrection straight after it. The quality difference between H2O and Resurrection is night and day. Same with Halloween 4 to Halloween 5. And some would say kills and ends is similar. Like it destroys what came previously, even though I didn't mind kills and ends. But there are films in the franchise, and I think 4 and 5 is one of the biggest culprits, because the best thing about the 2 best things about Halloween 4 were Rachel and Jamie. And you're making Jamie a mute for half the movie, and Rachel lasts 25 minutes. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, you just eliminated the best parts of Halloween 4. And then you go and get this pigeon mask to replace the mask from Halloween 4. It might be a good segue to our next point, and that's how Michael Myers looked in this film, because I think that's a big issue. Nowadays, I don't see it as an issue, but when I watched it for the first time, I'm like, woof, what is that? What is that mask? You did touch on it a little bit, but what are your overall thoughts about his overall main look? Not the pink mask or the bandages, but the overall main look that he had.
I don't know what the hell happened here. The mask seems to be like really flimsy. It doesn't, like, I don't know if anyone in the chat, or, I would imagine you probably own a couple of the masks, Barry. The masks have a certain amount of rigidity to them that, they're malleable around the neck and everything. But there's especially the shot where he's like putting on the mask in the drugstore. Then there's a shot where he's looking at Bucky, where it looks like the face is like sort of caved in, like the mask doesn't have its own, like there's not a little bit of stiffness to it that really gives it its shape. It just seems sort of like flat. There's the surprised look. The eyebrows are like a bit too much for me. I think it's way too white. I feel like that's one of those things where it's like, even if you just dirty up that mask a little bit, tone down the brightness of it, it just looks sort of silly. There's the shot of him in the lightning flash or whatever is pretty funny to me.
Yeah.
And then then you've got a continuity issue with like, sometimes there's shoulder pads, sometimes there's not. So that lends into that whole Frankenstein thing that you had mentioned when they're up on the roof, which is a really cool idea when you close your eyes and think about it. But then when you actually watch it in the movie, he's like got this weird sort of like thing going on that just to me doesn't seem like Michael at all. Like when I think of Michael, even robotic Dick Warlock Michael, I think about like cold, calculated, not really like the Jason Voorhees type that really needs to, like, he just sort of picks his spot and makes his move and goes for it. And when I see like this stiff kind of Michael with the shoulder pads and a mask that just doesn't strike fear in me like at all, I don't know. The older I get, the more important the portrayal of Michael is to me when I watch these movies, as far as like being able to suspend my disbelief. And it's sort of similar to, we talked about H2O the last time I was on. And I think the mask, at least the Stan Winston mask in H2O, is far better than this one. But that's one of my issues in that film. It's mostly the going through the multiple kinds of masks that they have in that film, which sort of takes me out. Here in Halloween 4, it's like there's a couple shots in the Meeker house. I'm not sure if that's Tom Morga that's playing Michael in those scenes, if that has anything to do with it. But I think it's mostly the blue lighting in the Meeker house, where there are a couple spots where the mask is effective. After he stabs Kelly Meeker with the shotgun and steps back and looks at her, like the mask looks fine. But the way that they shoot it most of the time, I've said this a whole bunch, like on socials and in chats and everything like that. Honestly, I just think if you keep the bandaged look the whole time, put him in a jumpsuit and keep those bandages on his face, then you could have had like a really scary, iconic, different Michael look. He could have always gone back to the mask at some point. But I think in this movie, the way they sort of explain, they show him covered in bandages. I just would have rather that be the thing. And I think it would bump this movie up in my ranking for sure.
Oh, well, yeah, that's fair enough. Now, for me, I've come to not love the mask because it's obviously not a good looking mask, but I've come to appreciate what they had to work with. Now, I'm a photographer, and seeing what the mask looks like in Halloween 4 now and seeing the lighting of the film now, I would say that if they used the original mask in its perfect condition in Halloween 4, it would look equally as ridiculous as the mask that they actually used. And the reason for that is because of the lighting that they used in Halloween 4. Dean Cundy didn't do the lighting for Halloween 4, or the cinematography, sorry. But I would imagine if they used that crappy looking mask that they used in Halloween 4, but had the same lighting crew that they had in Halloween 1, I would say the Halloween 4 mask would look good because it's all about the lighting. What you said about Kelly Meeker's kill, the lighting in that scene takes you back to Halloween 1, and the mask didn't look too bad in that scene. So had they lit the movie the same way they did in that one scene, I would think that the Halloween 4 mask wouldn't be too bad, wouldn't be as bad as it is in the overall film. It's more of a Hollywood lit movie, and that's what Halloween H2O suffers from as well, is the way the movie is lit. It's completely different to the way Halloween 1 and 2 were lit because they were a different beast. But when it comes to the mask, I still accept it because it's not supposed to be the original mask either, because he obviously doesn't have a mask. He goes to the drugstore. He just happens to find a mask that is very similar to the mask that he used in the first movie. So I can get the point. That's why it looks a little bit clean. It would be quite cool if after he got the mask, he tripped up and fell in a puddle and it would be all dirty and stuff like that. But
something.
It's very clean looking, very different to the first movie. But I do think that a lot of that is down to the lighting for the film. I would say if Dean Cundy came back and done something there, I think it wouldn't look half as bad. In terms of the shoulder pads and stuff, again, I was laughing at it as a kid, but I've come to appreciate it now because in the scenes where you see the shoulder pads, it's running up to a big stunt scene. So he has to wear the padding for like getting hit by the car or
Mhm.
being on top of the roof. So you can see that it has to look a little bit different. If it was shot today, they'd have a lot more equipment and stuff to hide that, the camera trickery and stuff like that. They just didn't have it back then. So I think Halloween 4 suffers from lack of lighting,
Mhm.
professional lighting, and maybe just lack of money to be able to do what they've done in other films. But again, I'm giving it excuses, and it shouldn't have those excuses because Halloween 1 was made at $325,000. So if they can do that on that budget, no other film in history has an
Yeah.
excuse, you
Well,
know?
and the mask was brand new in that one. He just took it from the store that morning. We see him during the day, albeit across the street and maybe slightly out of focus. When Lori sees him standing by the car.
Mhm.
So I think, it really just comes down to that attention to detail on the mask. And of course, yeah, the lighting and everything. I think that there is something about those late 80s, early 90s movies where they just didn't really everything seems a little overexposed, I guess,
Mhm.
on the lighting side. Even that shot where it's supposed to be spooky, where they drive away in the cop car and they show that Michael's standing on the middle of the street, like holding the knife here or whatever. Even there, he looks like silly. It's just
Yeah.
not. There's just the creep vibe that you're supposed to get from Michael is just unfortunately not here in this movie. Like
Mhm.
he is brutal and he's tough and he's killing people and everything. There's just I would even say like Halloween 5, even though I think it's much lesser of a film, has more of the creepy, Michael stalking and watching kind of vibe that it would have been nice to have that in some way in Halloween 4, but I just don't think it was really in the minds of the filmmakers. I mean, it's the third Michael Myers movie, right? So it's
Mhm.
like they don't have all the knowledge that we have now looking back at it. And, even if there was some sort of, I understand they couldn't go with the original mask and everything like that, but look at how good the James Jude Courtney or the Christopher Nelson mask in the David Gordon Green trilogy was. And you don't even have to go to that extreme. You just have to make something that looks a bit more looks and feels and has the weight of like the original mask. And I
Yeah.
think it would, knock this one definitely give it a better grade overall. And man, just I'll say it again, the bandages. I want to see that version. I want to see somebody do a face swap, AI face swap where he just has the bandaged look the whole time. Because when he goes, that one shot of him like going to stab the mechanic with like the straight crowbar or whatever, like that's an awesome shot. I love like the bloodied look and everything like that. It just really makes Michael feel like inhuman.
Yeah.
And then when you put that silly mask, I love somebody says here, Jay says they still went with the Star Trek theme in H4. They just decided to go with Mr. Data instead of Captain Kirk. And yeah, it just has this sort of, I don't know, like I like that in the original Halloween that the mask looks different in almost every shot because of the lighting. Here in Halloween 4, it looks different in almost every shot, but in a ridiculous way. It's like,
Mhm.
um, I can't get over just the whole like, "Huh? What are you looking at me for, Bucky?" Like that kind of
Yeah.
that shot there. Um, so yeah, I mean, for me, Michael, the portrayal of Michael is a big reason why this movie it takes my nostalgia glasses right off every time I watch it.
Mhm.
And one of those things like, when people and again, it's like everyone is totally entitled to their own opinion. You put your rankings wherever you like them, but when I see or hear that like Halloween 4 is like the second best or the best movie in the whole series, I'm just like, man, really? Like, what am I missing from these other movies that like really make them like, how could Halloween 4 be better than Halloween 2018? Like, let me count the ways. I can't think of one, you know? But I guess that's the fun thing about fandom is we all sort of bring, different things to the table. And of course, nostalgia is a hell of a drug for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. How would you feel about another like let's say the next Halloween film comes out? Would you be opposed to them doing a bandaged Michael Myers for most of the movie?
I guess it just depends on how it connects to the rest of it. Like if
Mhm.
they're gonna do, because he got chopped up, to bits, so that Michael is done. The Michael from the David Gordon Green
Yeah, yeah.
trilogy is finished. So if they tried to pick it up from one of the other movies, then yeah, you have that same sort of explanation of like he was burned or whatever. Like I think that yeah, I think that as long as you have sort of a faceless, unremarkable look for Michael, I think that's the key. I think
Mhm.
we're supposed to put our emotion on that face. And that's what works so well about that original mask in the first two films. And I think that's what works so well in the David Gordon Green trilogy, especially the first two movies in that trilogy, is just that like you just want to know what the hell's going on in that head of his.
Yeah.
And I think the bandaged look really could have been, a missed opportunity, I think, looking back. And again, they could have put him in another Captain Kirk mask in the next film. Maybe I mean, of course, you have to write it. It has to be properly motivated, as Dave McRae would say.
Uh-huh.
Um, you have to make sure that that's there. But I think that they had it set up perfectly in Halloween 4. And I swear, like every time I think, every time I sit down and watch that movie, I'm like, man, I would love this movie so much more if he just stayed like that. So yeah, I'd be all for it. And I would even be like, I would love to see a TV show where they do like legacy sequel mini series kind of things.
Yeah.
And we can pick up from Halloween 4. We can forget Halloween 5 and you can bring Danielle Harris back, and maybe she's been in a hospital since she was, 10 years old, something like that, and she could be our Michael, in a follow-up or something. So I do think there's room in this crazy franchise that has all these choose your own adventures. I think that there is the possibility to just sort of pick up wherever you want to and continue on. So yeah, let's see a bandaged Michael Myers. Why the hell not?
I'd be all for that, definitely, because that's something I would have loved to have seen in Halloween 4. I would
Mhm.
much prefer the bandages throughout the film than the mask that we got. Even though I was defending it there, saying about the lighting and stuff, I still
Yeah.
think having great lighting with the bandages would be equally as effective as well.
Hmm.
In terms of the pink or the skin tone mask that they had,
Yeah.
the reason, I don't know if you know this, but the reason that they had that mask is because they got a shipment in for a bunch of masks that they were going to be using for the film. When it came, it was the wrong mold and the wrong color, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have time to change this up right now. We're doing a shoot at the school." So they had to shoot with one of those masks and then use the proper mask the next day that they were shooting. So, and they didn't have the time or the budget to go back and reshoot that
Yeah.
scene because Donald Pleasance was in that scene. And you know about Donald Pleasance, he was only on the set when he was supposed to be there. He would he would not come
Yeah.
back for extra shots because he's away to the pub to get a drink. So
Sure. Yeah.
he wasn't returning for another reshoot. No
Well, and
chance.
if I remember correctly, like, didn't Dwight H. Little, like, I don't even know if he realized when they were doing the shoot, because I think I remember in a commentary track or something where he says that he didn't even realize until they were looking back at the footage,
Probably not. I don't
which
know,
is
but probably not.
that's wild though, to think that you're on set with some guy wearing that thing,
Mhm.
and you don't even realize,
You think
Um,
it's with the hair because the hair was lighter, but I don't know,
yeah.
an oversight for some people, I guess.
And it wouldn't even if yeah, even if the hair were the right color, you wouldn't have noticed. You could have just spray painted that hair really quick or something. I don't know.
Mm.
Um,
If only Christopher Nelson was there, he could do a little quick
yeah.
job for them.
I
You
know
know,
people would not be with the way that people felt about the humor in the David Gordon Green movies. I know people would freak the hell out if we had a pink mask with blonde hair in any of those films. That would just be it.
yeah, they should have done it for a laugh.
They
Um,
should have. They had all those other little Easter eggs and hints.
that would have been a fun one. I'll go back to the chat for a second. Matt Mara said, "I hate ends. Biggest slap in the face to Michael Myers." Hmm,
Oh,
I disagree, but
yeah.
that's fine. That's fine. Cody Snyder says Halloween 3 is awesomeness. It
Oh
is.
yeah.
And I bet back then, if we had Twitter back then, people would say the same thing about Halloween, the season of the witch.
Y- And
Hospital. Oh, sorry, you go.
and and if they had Twitter back then, the filmmakers would have been able to let everyone know, hey, we're all done with Michael Myers, but we want to keep on doing these movies every Halloween. So we're going to have a different kind of Halloween story. We hope you guys enjoy it. And then no
Yeah,
one would have been confused.
that's true. That's very true. Evil Alex said, hospital intro of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is great. Yeah, as
Yeah.
much as I don't like Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I think the intro to that is one of the strongest in the franchise, if not one of the possibly best intros that you
Hmm.
can get to a Halloween film. And I know you're a fan of
Yeah.
Halloween 2, so I know you agree with that. um, Jonathan Ball said, "Just Before Dawn is now. Just Before Dawn is on my list. Good, good.
Yeah.
Everyone
I'll have
should
to
watch
check it
it."
out.
Mhm. My Chunky Jordy said, "I enjoy Ends, have always hated 3, and not because Michael isn't in it, and have a blast with Resurrection." I
Mm.
mean, I know there's fans of Resurrection. I actually didn't mind Resurrection when it first came out. I think it's because I 19 and I watched it, and because it was a Michael Myers movie, I forced myself to like it because, it's Michael Myers. I want
Yeah.
to defend Michael Myers, so hey.
There's certain things about it that I have fun with for sure.
Mhm. Let's see. Jordan Moran said, "Better than Southern Comfort." What, Halloween Ends or My Beer?
I
Oh,
don't know. Like, is Southern Comfort a movie? I know it's a booze.
yeah, that's what I thought he meant. Uh,
Yeah.
in case anyone's interested, I'm drinking a Birra Moretti. It's an Italian beer.
Mm. Is it like
Love
a
my
Pilsner?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I'm
Like
not
a
a big beer fan, so I couldn't even tell you the difference between certain beers. But I got this at a wedding a few weeks ago, and it was the first time I tried it, and I thought that's actually not too bad. So I
nice.
bought it again. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
not a big beer drinker. Um, let's see. Well, it seems like people are agreeing with you, Davey. Jace Bale said Halloween 4 is overrated. Nobody kill me for saying that. Well,
Goofy looking Michael's headed your way.
hmm, I'm quite sad. I'm quite sad about this. Um,
But I don't hate the movie, right? Like I'd probably put it's got to be somewhere in the middle of my ranking, you
yeah.
know? It's one of those things where it's like I do think it's overrated, you know?
Sean Sheridan said, going through the whole series, can you seriously tell me Halloween 4 has more issues than the other 11 movies? Easily the best sequel. Well, I think they've all got issues, I guess.
Hmm.
To me, Halloween 4 has lesser issues than other films in the franchise. For me, I think it's about the mood and the atmosphere of Halloween 4. I think that really strikes with me. Obviously,
Hmm.
nostalgia plays the part, but the intro to Halloween 4 is like very atmospheric and it travels throughout the entire film. So that's one of the strong points for me. But it does have weaknesses like the way Michael Myers looks. Some of the characters are a little goofy. Um, but some like David, you said some of your negatives are my positives. Like you think it feels like a semi remake or a
Hmm.
retelling of Halloween 1. And I think the same, but I see that as a positive. So I think everyone's different with the way they, how they feel about it.
Yeah,
Um,
and everyone has a different like, when we think about how we feel about a movie, you have like your different criteria, and everyone has their criteria prioritized in a different
mhm,
fashion as well. So when I look at the Halloween movies specifically for that franchise, the portrayal of Michael is probably the most important thing to me, which is why I probably have the David Gordon Green trilogy in my top 5. It's just that's the thing, that's the criteria. I can't disagree with anyone that says that Halloween 4 has really good fall mood and atmosphere. It definitely does. Barry, you mentioned it. The intro is awesome. I like everything at the hospital in the beginning too. I think the first 20 minutes, all of that's really solid,
yeah,
but it's just kind of all about how you decipher, like, how am I going to choose the rankings and how I feel about this movie.
yeah, no, totally. So I got a super chat. Sean Sheridan sent in 99 cents. Apologies, Sean. I didn't
Oh.
even see that coming through. Thanks very much for that. And you left a comment a minute ago as well. Thanks for that. Jonathan Ball asks, does the end of Halloween 4 feel like a tack on? Like they didn't know how to end it, so they just threw it out on
Hmm.
at the end? It does now because of what happened in Halloween 5, but if they ended it with Halloween 4 and either stopped it there or
Mhm.
continued with that in Halloween 5, then it wouldn't feel like a tack on, but because they completely changed it, then yes, I would say it does now feel like a tack on. What do you think, Davey?
It's like they didn't know if it was gonna do well enough for them to warrant
Mhm.
doing a sequel, and it did really, really well. So I think, yeah, they were like, "We're gonna take a swing and do something pretty daring here that may leave people shocked," and that would be a great place to put a pin in it and, end the series, but then it did so damn well that they rushed that sequel into production and, yeah, didn't really think it through on how to connect it to the next chapter,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, no, I agree. Um, Oh, here's a fun fact that I didn't even think of. Evil Alex said, fun fact, both daughters of Laurie in Halloween 4 and Halloween Kills see Michael Myers as a kid
Mhm.
in a clown costume in their mind. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Didn't even notice that. That's quite cool.
Mhm.
Just going to quickly go through some of these, sorry, because I'm way, 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 way behind. Um, Jace Bales said, the movie looks like it's an episode of Full House too. I know it's the aspect ratio they used, but Halloween 4 and 5 look really cheap to me. I can see what you mean. Like the aspect ratio is 16:9, whereas
Mhm.
the what do you call it? Halloween 1 and 2 are full widescreen or
Mhm.
panoramic widescreen. I can't remember what ratio it was, but yeah, it's totally like you would see it as full screen on a widescreen TV, Halloween 4 and 5. So it's 16 by
Yeah.
9, roughly, that both of them are. So yeah, that does cheapen a Halloween film. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, because Rob Zombie's Halloween was proper widescreen, but then
Mhm.
he decided to do that 16 by 9, similar to Halloween 4 and 5. I didn't see the point in that, but I guess it's up to the director. If the director feels like they can get more in with
Yeah.
no bars there, then it makes sense. Maybe he wants to show the scope and scale of Michael Myers in those films, because obviously Tyler Mane is huge. So it's a
Mhm.
creative decision that I think certain directors take. But with Halloween 4 and 5, I think they would have benefited more with those proper widescreen, like the original Halloween, because it adds to the feel of the original films. And by taking that away, you do get your Full House style or Hallmark TV
Yeah.
movies. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with stuff like that because you can't hide from that fact. So,
I think late '80s, early '90s kinda had that. Even I've said it a few times about that Night of the Living Dead remake. I really enjoy that, but it looks so, like, oddly lit, almost like a TV movie.
yeah.
And I think even like, A Nightmare on Elm Street, some of those sequels in the late '80s sorta have that kinda look that's similar to, Halloween 4 and 5.
Well, the reason that we done letterbox, sorry, that we done like the TVs that we got back then were not even 16 by 9, they were 4 by 3 TVs.
Yeah.
So when people were watching a widescreen movie, my granda used to always say, I was watching a film, son, and it looked like I was watching it through a letterbox. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, because there's black lines. What are the black lines for? I'm not getting to see the full movie. It's zoomed in a
Yep.
little bit or zoomed out. I wanted to zoom in so I don't see those black lines. So people weren't
Mhm.
understanding that you're actually seeing more of the film because it's
Yep.
zoomed out, but they weren't understanding that. So they started to make movies 4 by 3 so that you get to see the full film. So the late
Mhm.
80s, the early 90s were criminal for doing that because they chopped a lot of the film off. But
I know, we just had these tiny TVs back then, it's so funny, very few people had a big screen TV, and they were massive, they were like giant pieces of furniture,
yeah,
the big screens back then.
I've got an 85-inch Samsung, but it's getting repaired just now by Samsung. So I have to watch a film on my 55-inch TV in my room.
Ah,
And it feels so small, even though it's a big TV, it feels so
yeah,
small compared to my 85-inch. But then when I think back to watching TV in my parents' house in the 80s, we would have like a 17-inch TV and it
yeah,
was huge. It felt huge to us. Obviously, I
yeah,
had a big border as well. But I'm like, whoa, this is a huge TV. But nowadays, like that's the size of a tablet.
yep.
It's crazy how technology's changed over the years.
The future is here, Barry.
Yeah, I think I better reinvest it. I used to have a 4K projector screen, excuse me, a 4K projector, and I could project in 4K UHD up to 200 inches.
Damn.
But I didn't have at the time, I didn't have a flat white wall. It was like wallpaper and stuff I had, so I had no point in using it. So I sold it. But now the house I'm in is all white walls.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could put this on any wall. So I'll maybe buy another one. Maybe. Maybe, baby. So moving on to the characters, we did touch on Rachel and Jamie. Jamie. We did touch on Rachel and Jamie, but in terms of the other cast members, how would you compare the other characters to other characters and maybe even some of your favorite Halloween films? Do you think they stand up, like characters like Brady, Sheriff Meeker, Kelly Meeker, Wade, even though he's in it for a scene, or even Dr. Loomis? How did those versions of characters weigh up for you?
Yeah, I think Loomis is really, really good here. Donald Pleasance probably brings in, I think we are always going to remember his performance in the first film as like the most iconic.
Yeah.
But I think in 4, he probably puts in his most, I would say, like dynamic performance in this one. He does have a couple good lines in 5, but 5 is just sort of a mess. But here in 4, I feel like he's just sort of, he's done messing around. Like he's ready to ratchet it up right away. When he just decides to get in that water and start looking for proof that, Michael's either there or not there. He's just like ready to go. And so I really do appreciate that about his performance there. I think it's Bo Starr that plays Sheriff Meeker. I really like his performance here. It would have been nice to get a little bit more of him. I think even like the whole slaughter that happens in the, in the, not the jailhouse, but in the police station, it would have been nice to have seen some of that. But I can certainly appreciate, seeing the aftermath as sort of like a shocking reveal. Maybe it would have been cool, like while they're looking at the aftermath, you just get like little quick inserts of some of the action happening, because it looks to be a pretty bloody mess right there. If it were Terrifier 3, we would have seen the whole thing, and it would have been 25 minutes long. So I do think that Meeker's great. I really love Loomis here. Brady's kind of throwaway for me, and even though Kelly Meeker's like hot and everything, like she's kind of throwaway for me as well. Like her "fuck off Wade" line is classic and will go down in history as one of the best comedic moments in a Halloween film, I do think. But for the most part, like we don't get much meat on the bone with those characters. I love that. It cracks me up because I watched this last night in preparation for this video, and Brady is like so quick to just like hop on over to the next gal or whatever. But then when Rachel shows up, he is like, "But wait, don't leave." And it's like, dude, you're still like hanging out at this chick's house right now. And then he just like walks right back up into the house. He's just like, "Oh, whatever. I guess I'll just like put my tail between my legs and go back up here." And it made me realize, I'm like, I think Brady's kind of a shitty guy. Are we supposed to like this guy? I don't know. I feel like we're supposed to kind of like him because Rachel kind of likes him. But yeah, I would say, it's for me, it's all about Jamie, Rachel, and Loomis and Meeker. But man, I would have loved to get a little bit more of Meeker here for sure in this one.
Kelly Meeker.
Well, yeah, I would take a little bit more. They shied away from some of the, Halloween made some decisions that the other slasher movies weren't making then. And I guess it was sort of forward thinking at the time, to go away from the nudity as the movies went on. So, I think the tease that you get with Kelly Meeker is certainly enough, but
yeah.
Now that's all I can think about. Thanks, Barry.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that scene. But in terms of Brady, I feel like I like Brady because he's quite similar to a character like Cameron, where we're supposed to hate Brady to begin with, and whether or not we agree with his actions, we're supposed to then feel for him because he's defending Rachel and Jamie at the end. That's how he dies. He
Mhm.
dies
Yeah.
defending them. So I feel like he's got a good character arc where he is a bit of a dick to begin with, and then we
Yeah.
start to feel for him because he genuinely does like Rachel, but I think he obviously just couldn't say no to Kelly Mika, which is understandable. I even told my wife as well. I'm like, if Kelly Mika asked me to go to the house, I'm going. So just to let
Yeah.
you know in advance.
That's
Sorry.
it's really tough. The way she looks in that shirt, it's very, very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Got
Um,
to do it by the book.
I love there's that moment where he like shoots the doorknob and then he goes, "It's metal."
Yeah.
And Rachel goes, "What does that
What does
mean?" And
that
I'm like,
mean?
she's like us. She's like
Yeah.
the audience. We're like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean? Like it's melted and it's too hot, you can't touch it, but all you're gonna say is it's metal.
He's like, let me just go on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
metal. Like, are you saying it's like it's hardcore? Like it's like metal music? What does that mean?
it's metal. Yeah, yeah, man, it's metal.
And
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
do
cool.
want to give a quick shout out to Michael Pataki at the beginning of this film. He's I can't remember the name of the character he plays, but he's basically the doctor that, doesn't let Loomis know that they're transferring Michael.
Right.
He's in one of my favorite Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes. I love that show. And he's in a movie called Side Hackers. It is a terrible movie, but it's really cool to see, just see some of those performers in a movie that I didn't even realize when I watched it as a kid that he was in
Yeah,
there. And then seeing it now, yeah, Hans Gruber says Hoffman. Yep, that's right, Dr. Hoffman.
Doctor
And I do
Hoffman.
think he puts in a great performance here where he's just basically, he's the first person to tell Loomis, like, I think you're off your rocker. I think you're worrying a bit much,
Yeah, but it was wrong, of course. Also,
Absolutely wrong.
the Reverend as well. I quite like the Reverend. Obviously, he's only in it for one scene, but he felt like an important character to me because he gave in a really memorable performance. Reverend
Yeah.
P. Sayre. Um,
Hmm.
he was obviously in the Wedding Singer, which his scenes in the Wedding Singer were hilarious. Have you seen the Wedding Singer?
Yeah, it's been years though.
All right. So he plays the
Really
old
dig.
drunk. He plays an old drunk at
Yeah.
the bar, and he's he's doing like a Michael Jackson dance and stuff, and he defends Adam Sandler's character against like the main bad guy, and he punches him in the face. The old guy punches him in the face, but nothing happens. And he goes, "I used to be much stronger." It's just the way he says it. It's hilarious.
Is he the guy that plays Blue in Old School? Is that the same actor?
Oh yes, it is. It is. He's in Old
Okay.
School as well. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's
So he's
great. That scene is awesome.
mm,
I love that sweet little smile on Donald Pleasance's face
yeah.
as
When he's
as he knows he's gonna get a little sip of whiskey.
yeah, that's what I was going to say there. Right, let's have a look. So, Darren's in the chat. Well, this was about 25 minutes ago. Sorry, Darren. Evening all. If you're still here, Darren, howdy. Evil Alex said the bandages getting more bloody over the film would have given Michael a
Yeah.
more creepy look. Yeah, could you imagine that? Like having it all kind of weathered as it goes
Hmm.
by, maybe opening up a little bit and seeing the
Sure.
blood coming, and then eventually he's maybe thinking, I need to get a mask here because the bandages are all falling apart. That'd be quite
Yeah.
cool. Really nice. Really nice. T. Parker said, Halloween 4 definitely has the best atmosphere of the franchise, in my opinion. The opening intro screams fall and sets up the mood for the film. That's how I feel about it as well. How do you
Yeah.
feel about the opening, David? Did you like the opening?
Oh, I think the opening's great. Yeah. I like that whole like quiet kind of intro, just hearing like the breeze, like, kind of whistle through everything and just that imagery of the, farm equipment and all that kind of stuff, the old Halloween decorations. I
Yeah.
really dig that for
It,
sure.
it was a bold move though, because this was the first Michael Myers movie to not feature the pumpkin at the beginning of
Mhm.
the film, because obviously the first two had the pumpkin opening up. Halloween 3 doesn't
Mhm.
count because it doesn't have Myers in it. So I don't I think they genuinely didn't even think about putting a pumpkin at the beginning. They probably forgot and just done what they've done, and it worked. Luckily for
Yeah.
them, it worked. So yeah, I really like the opening as well. Uh, so, apologies, guys. I need to skip down a little bit because I'm looks like I'm like 20 minutes behind in the chat. I'm sorry.
Mhm. I
So
love all the good names are taken podcast says this should have been a 90-second live stream. Answer is no. Like
that's true.
disagree with you, Ronnie or Blake, whichever one that is.
Southern Comfort is a Dirty Harry film.
Oh,
Ah,
interesting.
oh well,
Yeah.
it's nothing to do with the beer or the Southern Comfort.
Yeah.
There we go. Evil Alex said, Night of the Living Dead, Tom Savini's 90s remake, is one of my favourite zombie
Mm.
films, and I prefer it over the OG. That's one that's on my watch list, and I'll be watching it again. I've not seen that for about 20 years. I need to go back and watch that as well.
Yeah, Tony Todd's awesome in that.
Yeah, he was cool in that. Keith Williams said, I like Halloween 4. It has Michael Myers' atmosphere in it, but if they kept it widescreen, it would feel more expensive. It's funny that, isn't it? When you make a movie widescreen, it automatically feels a little bit richer, which is bizarre, you know?
Hmm. There's
Uh,
just something classic about it a little bit. Definitely seems more cinematic
yeah, no,
for
definitely.
sure.
Cinematic is the right choice of word in there. So if we compare, let's say it's 1988, we're in 1988 just now. How would you compare Halloween 4? You're just out from the cinema seeing Halloween 4. How would you
Hmm.
compare it to the first two movies? I know what your answer is going to be for Halloween 1, but I still don't know if you think, on first watch, would it be up against Halloween 2? Has it got a chance for you?
I don't think so for me. And I know like Halloween 2 definitely has like these lulls in the story where, not much happens and you're kind of, watching Michael, but walk through on the security cameras and all that kind of stuff. But I guess if I'm, watching a Halloween movie and that's what I'm seeing is sort of seeing, just getting that look into what Michael's up to, I would take that over honestly, I think that for 4, I'd probably walk out of the theater saying like, that was pretty good. Like I had a fun time with that one, but why, what the hell's with the way Michael looked? Like, I think that's like the main thing I would take away. It would probably be my third favorite out of the first 3, because I do think that there's
so,
something
so the
really,
last,
yeah, I mean, if you've only got 3 Michael Myers movies, it's going to be dead last because the first one is what it is. It's one of the greatest, horror films and quite possibly greatest films of all time. And then I do think that Halloween 2 gets a nice little boost that it probably wouldn't have because it takes place on that same night. And even though the mask looks different on Dick Warlock, it's the same mask. It looks close enough, especially the shot where he injects the air into Nurse Janet's head.
yeah.
Like that shot of the mask there is one of the best. I mean, that's one of the best shots of Michael, like period, I think, in the whole franchise. So I think that yeah, I would probably be pleased with it. And I think maybe the biggest takeaway, just trying to put myself there, walking out of the theater, would be so much excitement for what's going to come next, because what an epic ending that they
Yeah.
picked. So I think that would probably be, maybe that would even overtake my feelings about how Michael looked. I would be like, oh man, this is going to be crazy. Like, what are they going to do next?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, for me, if I'm watching this in 1988 for the first time, I would automatically say it's better than Halloween 2 straight away. I'd be like, it's better than
Mm,
Halloween 2. But then I would think about it in a few years and think, do you know what? Halloween 2 is a slow burn, but it still feels more like the original Halloween. It's got the same beats and stuff like that. And it's got Jamie
mhm.
Lee Curtis in it, of course. So I think there's a lot that Halloween 2 has going for it over Halloween 4. But for when I rank Halloween 2 and Halloween 4, those two films are one or two of the films that move around quite a lot for me.
Yeah.
Um, they go up and down. I feel like sometimes Halloween 4 can go as high as third place, but then it can go right down to sixth or seventh place. And it's the same with Halloween 2. That can go up to third and then go right down to sixth or seventh as well. I
Mhm.
think with my top 3, they're quite cemented at the moment. But that is the original first, H2 is second, and Halloween Ends is third at the moment. But it can change. But I feel like those 3 are kind of cemented for a little while. It just
Mhm.
really depends how I'm feeling, to be honest. But coming out in 1988, I think I'd be buzzing. Um, like Lee from Drum Dums, he went to the cinema to see it in
Yeah.
1988.
Yeah.
My friend Chris from Sheffield, he saw it at the cinema in 1989. It came out in 89 in the UK. So I think for those guys, only those guys can tell us how it
Mhm.
was. Because we weren't old enough back then. We're just babies. But seeing it at the cinema, I think it would add something to it that maybe we don't have. Because I know
Yeah.
that Lee loves Halloween 4 and so does Chris. So I think you had to have been there, I guess,
Yeah.
to really take that in.
And I think Lee, like, I think that's one of the first to, like, because I've been watching you and Lee for a really long time now. And I think he was the first person that I knew, like, in the YouTube space where I was like, man, he really loves Halloween 4. And I just, like, I think it's okay. But I totally understand that it's like you do have that different, he was probably like 16 or something like that when it came out, like 14, 15, 16, just like the same age that we were when H2O was coming out. And man, I
Exactly.
left the theater after H2O, like I was totally a buzz, and I definitely, that I've got more lukewarm feelings on that one than you do. But I'll tell you what, seeing that in the theater, it was my first Michael Myers experience in the theater, and walking out, like I was pumped. So
Mhm.
yeah, I certainly think that being able to, get lost in the moment of like the release and seeing something in the theater is definitely going to affect the way you feel about the movie, moving forward for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that. The first film I saw at the cinema in the Halloween franchise was Halloween from 2007, Rob Zombie's Halloween. That was the first one
Really?
I saw.
You didn't see H2O in the theater?
I wasn't old enough. I was
Oh,
only 14. I would have been 15 in the October.
gotcha.
So it came out in like August in the UK, and I was only 14, and it was an 18 in the UK, so I didn't see it at the cinema.
Oh, gotcha.
I was old enough to see Resurrection at the cinema, but I followed the production of Resurrection from the very beginning,
Hmm.
and it got really bad ratings through michaelmyers.net and halloweenmovies.com. So I decided not to go and see that, and I just waited for the DVD.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rob Zombie's Halloween was the first cinematic experience I had for a Halloween film. And again,
Dang.
I came out not buzzing, but I thought that was really good. I thought that was really good. And I would tell my
Hmm.
friends like this Rob Zombie film is really good. And then I'd watch it again and go, that was okay. And then I'd watch it again and go, let me just skip the first half hour. You
Yeah.
know?
Once it gets to the remake part, it is a lot more palatable for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
But then that's why I asked myself, does this even need to exist? Because all it is a souped up version of the original at that point. I do like seeing the Strodes. That scene with the Strodes feels very real to me and
Hmm.
visceral. And that's like the one thing about Rob Zombie's remake that is a standout moment for me.
Do you know, two of my favorite scenes in the remake is two scenes that maybe nobody would love. The first one is when Michael Myers puts on the mask for the first time when he was younger, and he comes round the corner to chase his big sister, Judith,
Hmm.
and she's crying and screaming and walking away, and he's walking behind her, and you can hear the music going, dun,
Yeah.
dun. I thought that's pretty cool. And then the other scene that I really loved as well was when Laurie was screaming and she ran out the door to cross the road, and Michael, adult Michael, was coming after her behind her. She's screaming, the music's blaring. I'm like, that's very atmospheric and scary. But that's
Hmm.
the only two scenes that really stuck out to me, and they shouldn't, because you need to have more iconic scenes than that. But those
Yeah.
were the scenes for me. But he done things right, but he done a lot wrong as well, that
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems
shame.
like a little bit of a, he probably would have been better suited for something like Texas Chainsaw, because that's essentially what he ended up doing with House of a Thousand Corpses. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's kind of, to me, I'm like, this is a Texas Chainsaw
Oh, yeah.
remake, pretty
Oh,
much.
totally. Even to the dialogue as well. Can you imagine him having like Cook and what's his
Yeah.
name of this scar on his face? What's his name?
Um,
The Hitchhiker?
yeah, I think they just call him Hitchhiker,
I think they
right?
maybe
I
do,
don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah. So so those, if he had that dialogue that he had
Yeah.
like with William Forsythe in Halloween, um,
God.
yeah, I think it would suit him.
Yeah.
Hans Gruber said Bucky never gets the respect he deserves. He certainly doesn't. He's going to call the cops, isn't he?
What does he say? Like, don't try any of that Halloween shit with me,
With
or what?
me. He even says to him something like, "You wait right there." You're like, he's going to
Yeah.
call the cop. He's like, I'll stand right here while you call the police. Yeah, of course I will. No,
Who puts their name on their helmet? You know?
I know.
Right? Doesn't he have his name on it on the helmet? Is
Is
that
it?
where it is? Right?
I
I
can't
think it
remember.
says Bucky on the helmet.
Maybe that's
Maybe
the name of
I'm
the. Can you
maybe I'm
imagine
wrong.
that's the name of the company? And we've been calling them Bucky all this time. Um, Hans Gruber said, "Yes, I do like that. Not every event is spoon fed to you." I don't know what you mean by that, but do you mean like Halloween 4 or? But I agree with you. No, I like it when nothing is spoon fed to you
Hmm.
in a film. Like if they say this is what happens and they go from A to B to C to D, I'd rather they just
Yeah.
go from A to D and expect you to understand
Hmm.
how they got there. Oof. Oh, Jordan said watching the pair of you on 65-inch just now.
Boom. They're
Wow.
huge.
I've got bad skin, Jordan, so you'll see all that. Thanks for that. So we've compared Halloween 4 to the movies up to this point, Halloween 1
Hmm.
and 2. How is your comparisons to this is me basically asking you where does this rank for you? But how does it compare to the future films like 5, Curse, H2O Resurrection, Rob Zombie's films and David Gordon Green's films? Do they, does Halloween 4 hold up against those, or is it one of these films that doesn't age well for you?
It's just like my opinion just sort of changes as the years go on, and maybe even just like how I feel about them at the time. And maybe, like I said, I rewatch these movies a couple times a year. So I may be like a little bit hotter on it one time and a little bit cooler another. I really enjoy the producer's cut of Curse of Michael Myers a lot more than the theatrical cut. There are a couple moments in the theatrical cut that I sort of wish were in the producer's cut. I do like that crazy massacre in the,
Yeah.
in the hospital. It's really fun. John Strode's head blowing up. That's really cool from the theatrical, but I enjoy the music so much more in the producer's cut. There's more slower tracking shots. I think more of a fall vibe in the producer's cut, but I think Curse has a good fall vibe regardless. But especially in the producer's cut, there's some really nice shots of Kara walking around the college campus and then around the home later
Mhm.
on that really feel like the original film to me. And then even when Deborah's like in the house and Michael's like behind her in the house stalking, I really like those moments. They remind me of the original film. That great like kill with the axe amongst all the sheets, all that sort of stuff. Like I would say like George P. Wilbur in Curse versus George P. Wilbur in H4. Like I'm taking Curse every day of the week. And I know that you don't like the mask in that movie, but I really like it. I think it's one of the better masks in the series. And I like that he's got a little bit, yeah, maybe he's a little rotund in that one, a touch. But I do think that Michael's got this imposing figure in Curse. H2O, I would say that 4 edges out H2O for me. I think it's more enjoyable overall.
Mhm.
Um, and I would say, I prefer it to the first Rob Zombie film. I prefer it to Resurrection, of course. It's probably right there with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 for me, because there's things about that movie I really don't like in both cuts. But there are things that work really, really well for me in those. And yeah, the David Gordon Green movies, those are all in my top 5. I think the way that they go is ends 2018 kills, I think. But every time I rewatch those movies, I sort of recalibrate how
Yeah.
I feel about them for sure. So I think, yeah, for me, if I'm going to put like the rankings, there's how many films are there now? 13 films, 12 with Michael in them.
Yeah.
So if you break them up into thirds, it's like right there at the beginning of that second third, I would say, in the rankings.
Mhm.
So definitely not a movie that I mean to poo-poo or anything, but I do think that it is I say overrated just because the portrayal of Michael just really doesn't stand up to what we've seen from him in the most recent movies and in some of the movies that came before it. So that for me is what really pushes it back there. A movie I still enjoy, a movie that I have fun with, but I don't think Michael's scary in Halloween 4. Once he puts on that mask, I think he's scary up until then, and then once he does that, he just doesn't spook me out anymore.
Yeah. That's a shame. It's a shame they feel that way. I
I'm
feel
sorry, everyone.
it's absolutely fine. Yeah, I feel like it is underrated, to be honest. I think it's got like 5.8 or 5.9 or something on IMDb. So I feel like that score doesn't do the film justice, because I think that it's got great atmosphere. It's got a really great cast of characters that are just being introduced to us for the first time in the Halloween franchise. And I feel like at this point in the franchise, it's the fourth movie in, the third with Michael Myers, and we've got brand new characters being chased by Michael Myers. Obviously, Donald Pleasance helps because we've got someone from the first two films there, but we've got a new cast of characters that they have to trust that we're going to latch on to these characters, and I do. I'm totally invested in Rachel. I think Rachel is better than Laurie Strode. Jamie is, to me at the time, was better than Laurie Strode because she was my age. So there was just so much going for Halloween 4 for me that I just couldn't hate the film. And then when I look at the score, I don't think it's underrated in terms of the Halloween fan base. I think the Halloween fan base are quite happy with Halloween 4. But in terms of everyone else outside of the Halloween fan base, just moviegoers in general, the average score that the film's got on Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb and stuff, I feel like it's underrated. So if someone asked me, is Halloween 4 underrated? I would say yes. But you would say,
I would say it's overrated, and I guess I'm strictly just speaking, you know, within the fandom for sure. Because I think overall, you know, horror movies are underrated by, you know, the establishment, and you know, if you look on Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb, it seems like there's like a different grading system for horror movies. Like no horror movie that's not Psycho or something that's like, you know, an absolute classic. Certainly no horror sequel. You know, if you can reach a 6 or a 7 on IMDb as a horror sequel, then you're probably one of the best ones out there, you know. But I do think within the fandom, I guess I just always sort of, maybe it's a bit myopic, but you know, coming from that horror community, I just always sort of think of these things as they're like our things. And if you're not in our world and you're, you know, criticizing them or whatever, you're looking at them with the completely wrong kind of lens.
yeah.
So I guess, yeah, just speaking within the Halloween fandom, yeah, I would say I do think it's overrated. I do. I understand why people love it, but I think at the same time, people turn a blind eye to the glaring issues that it has, and simultaneously, you know, maybe talk bad or maybe have ill opinions about you know, movies that I think have done it a lot better within the franchise.
Yeah. Yeah. That's again, it's just not like you're saying it's overrated, end of story. You're saying it's overrated because A, B, C, and D. And
Yeah.
that's an explanation. So whether people agree with it or not, they have to understand that that's your opinion and that's how you feel about Halloween 4. But I get it if someone says on Twitter or whatever, I don't like Halloween 4. It's the worst movie ever made. End of story. And you're like,
Yeah.
all right, okay. And then if you ask why do you think that, then they think you're arguing with them.
Sure.
And you're like, no, I'm not arguing. I'm just asking you why you have that opinion. I'm not saying I'm not asking you because I think you're wrong. I'm asking you because
Yeah.
I'm interested in how you see a film differently to how I see it. And it's not an issue. It's just take it easy, you know.
Yeah,
Stay
I think
calm.
it's fascinating just to know why people like why something works or why something doesn't work, and to be able to articulate that. So yeah, it's not that, you know, you know, whatever your opinion is, I think whether or not it's valid, I suppose, is more dependent upon, can you back it up or explain your opinion, or you just want to be contrarian or whatever. I don't know. Like I did a short about the Evil Dead 2013 where I was like, you know, I love this movie, blah blah blah, and somebody commented the Evil Dead sucked. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I responded, I was like, well, with a argument like that, how could I even say anything back? Like,
Exactly.
you know, thank you for the engagement. Really appreciate the comment.
Mhm.
But yeah, like tell me why, right? So I think that's one of those things. And I do, I think Rachel is great. I think it's a big misstep that they, even if they killed her off in part 5, man, they could have made it like much more gut wrenching, and it could have like really, you know, been something where like the fans start thinking that maybe she's going to make it through that one, but she sacrifices herself in 5 instead of the way that she went out in 5, which you know, Revenge of Michael Myers did Rachel dirty for sure.
Yeah,
More dirty than Brady did her
yeah.
dirty.
But if she died saving Jamie at
Something, yeah.
the end of Halloween 5, then we would be like, wow, very powerful
Mhm.
stuff. That's a great end to Rachel's character. But the way she died, you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Remember you were asking who puts their name on a helmet?
Yeah.
Bucky puts his name on the helmet. That's who.
I love it. I love it.
I need to. Dude, it's funny when you watch a film for so long, and when you ask yourself, did was it on his helmet? I need to actually check because it's annoying
You know,
me.
I think it is. I think it is.
Yeah,
That would
I
be a
think it is as well.
good like couples costume is like one person dresses up as Bucky, one person wears that terrible Michael Myers mask from part 4.
Yeah, it is. It's on his helmet and it's on his chest as well. So it says Bucky and Bucky. They really wanted us to know his name is Bucky. Maybe
Yeah, it's very
maybe
important.
Bucky must be the name of one of the producers or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it like that. One thing I was going to say to you, David, I can't do it today, obviously, but I've been thinking about this for a while now on trying to get a segment on my channel doing like a horror quiz. And I don't know how to go about it because if let's say we've done a horror quiz with me and you right now, the
Uh-huh.
thing is, if we ask each other questions, people would answer it in the chat and we could easily look at
Yeah.
the chat and go, ah, it's 14. And you're like, how did you know that?
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to iron out the kinks and find a way that we can do like a horror quiz on a live stream one night
Yeah.
so that whether it be the people involved that are in the chat or people that are just in the videos, it's something I've been thinking about for months and months. Do you ever think about that, trying to do like a quiz?
Yeah, I've thought about doing that because I do a lot of lives over on my channel, and the folks that hang out over there, they're like, "Oh, we'd love to do horror trivia." So I might do it where like I'm just the, you know, for that purpose, I'm just the host and they're the ones answering. I
Yeah.
don't know how you do it if you're yeah, I don't know. Is there a way you can go live and not allow anyone to chat and like turn off and turn on the chat?
I
I
need
don't
to double
know.
check because you could always say to your guest, right, don't look at the chat, and they'll be
Sure.
like, okay, and
Yeah, I'll be
and they'll
honest. Yeah.
and they'll look at the chat. Maybe you have to ask questions where you get like 10 seconds to answer it, or
Mhm.
saying that though, someone's going to know the answer, aren't they? Like within seconds. So it's
Yeah.
something I've been thinking about. But if you've got any ideas, think about them as well, Davey, and we can maybe try and think of something
It
like
would be
that.
fun. Yeah, maybe we can put a little something together. Yeah, I think horror trivia would be great.
Yeah,
I'm a nerd for all that. And
same. And
apparently, according to Troll Ha, I'm also smoking crack. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's because of your opinion on Halloween 4. I'm guessing, maybe not.
I I enjoy cannabis every day, Troll, but I swear that cannabis doesn't affect how I feel about that Michael Myers mask.
Mhm.
Equivalent to Nightmare 3 of sequels. That's some lofty praise right there.
How
Hey,
you
more
read?
power to you. More power to you. I think, you know, if that's the way you feel about Halloween 4, that's awesome. Like, I wish I could shut off that part of my brain that has a problem with the mask. Um, yeah, because Nightmare 3 is
Uh,
a banger of a sequel right there.
that's good. I think Nightmare 3 is one of the ones that's starting to slip on my
Mhm.
ranking. I need to rewatch them all again, but I feel like Nightmare 2 is the one that's creeping right up there
Mm.
because to me it's really strong.
I think I've got it third in my ranking. I'd go original, New Nightmare, and then 3. But man, 4. I enjoyed A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 so much more the last time I watched them all. I was kind of surprised by that one.
I think that one, as far as I remember, again, I've not seen them in years. That's the one that I quivered a little bit a few times, like when the girl's doing the weights
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and her
And
elbows pop out. I was like,
oh,
oh, is that
the
is that the
body
one with
horror.
is it the one with the motorcycle as well, where he's holding onto the motorcycle and then
I think so.
Freddy
Yeah,
grabs on? I mean,
yeah.
some of the scenes, like in all the Freddy movies, they've got a lot of good stuff, but they're very creative. And I think
Yeah.
the sleepwalk with the veins in
Mhm,
part 2, I think that might
mhm.
be. Is it? No,
Part
part
3?
3. 3.
Yeah.
Yes, some great scenery in them. That's again, I need to dive into the Nightmare franchise because
It's
I'm not
yeah,
done
it's
it.
definitely what set them apart. What set that whole franchise apart was the creativity on the gore effects, you know?
Yeah, because it can go all out because it's a dream. Anything can happen in a dream.
Mhm.
Mike Chunky Geordie said, I completely agree that Rachel is better than Laurie. She didn't constantly drop weapons, Barry. That's
Yeah.
true. I feel like Rachel is more like commanding, not with a boyfriend, because obviously she's got relationship issues. But apart from that, she's quite strong. And
Hmm.
I don't know, I think Ellie Cornell was just a better actress at her age than
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis was at her age, you know? But
I
obviously,
agree.
with experience, Jamie Lee Curtis got better. But I think if you're comparing Laurie Strode of 78 to Rachel of 88, I take Rachel.
Yeah.
It's quite sad because obviously the original is my favorite horror film, but you have to be honest.
Yeah,
And
she's just got a bit more like the character. There's just more for her to work with, you know. I love
mhm.
that bit at the beginning where she's like, you know, now this is like your grandchildren are all like on the line now. Like, you know, we're not going to have any anymore because of this decision. And another one of my favorite moments, I think, I love that the dad basically like tries to blame the mom for his tie going into the coffee or whatever. Like he blames his wife, like that's
Yeah,
her fault. I love like you created this situation. Typical 80s dad thing, I suppose.
yeah. That's definitely an 80s dad, yeah. I don't do that personally, but let's see. Evil Alex says the whole gas station scene in Halloween 4 is great. Michael in bandages, Loomis hunting him, the windy outside,
Yeah.
isolated feel of that place. I wish the film had more of those kind of scenes. Well, it does have
Yeah.
quite a lot of those scenes. I love the scene where they're at the schoolhouse. It's quite windy there. And then you've got the scene when the group of men are shooting at who they think is Michael, but like, shoot Earl, it's Ted Hollister.
Yeah.
So those scenes, I think the outdoor scenes are really creepy. What are your thoughts on the kind of overall creepiness and vibe?
Yeah, I do think that the gas station scene is a standout for sure.
Hmm.
You know, the like the whole redneck crew going and trying to hunt Michael, it just seems so abbreviated. It's like they need to find a nice medium between Halloween Kills and what they did in Halloween 4 because I would have liked a little bit more to make it feel, you know, I guess they are in the finale to a certain degree. What is he holding on to the bottom of that truck like Cape Fear or something like that? Is that what's going on there? Um,
I don't know how he managed to hold on and hide at the same
yeah.
time, but he's certainly done it.
And then when he's taking out the guys in the bed of the truck, they don't even notice in
I
the
know.
hanging out in the cab. And I'm like, oh, come on. You would like, I understand that movies are movies, but you would hear that. That neck rip is really good. I think that's one of the better, you know, quick little moments of the film because there's not much like active gore that you really see in the
Hmm.
movie. Like you see
Yeah.
the aftermath, you know, the arm ripped off of the one police officer or whatever, you see all that, but that's a really nice shot where for 88, that's sort of, you know, pushing it, you know,
Yeah.
on the
That
gore
was a good
factor.
scene. Do you know what's funny when you're saying about where was he hiding when he was under the truck? I didn't know this, but in Halloween H2O, see the scene where he's coming down from the pole with the
Hmm.
axe, and sorry,
Yeah.
Laurie Strode's got the axe. Chris Durand was talking to Sean Clark on his channel about how he done that scene, and he physically did go up on that ceiling and hold on, and when Laurie went past, he then came down. I thought that was like a cut scene to show that he
Yeah.
wasn't like he was supposed to be there, but he wasn't really because a human couldn't do that. But Chris Duran said, "Yeah, that was all me. I'd done that the whole scene without cutting. I held on, stayed up, and hid in that little space. Then when she passed, I came down very slowly, hurt
That's
his arm,
wild.
but he done it. I'm like, wow, that's good going, Chris Durand.
Yeah.
What a Michael he was, eh?
Yeah, you know how I feel about Chris. He was all right. He was all right. I love that they try to redo that right at the beginning of Resurrection, but they forgot to edit the film properly because you walk by and you don't see anything, and then in the next shot, he's like, you know, lowering himself when he would have been there the whole entire. We would have seen him in the previous shot.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm. Adrian Phillips said, worst to best,
all right.
RZH1, Resurrection, H2, Kills, 6, 18, 5, Ends, 4, H2, Season of the Witch, H2, and 78 at the top. Barely.
All right.
Ooh, so it's close. Do you know that's not a bad ranking? That's kind of similar to me, apart from Halloween 5, that's like further down. But 4 H2O, yeah, they're close. Ends is quite close as well. So I kind of agree with you, Adrian. I think maybe Davey will have something to say about that one, but hmm,
Yeah, I
that's
think, I always what I look at is like, oh, we're similar in this spot, and then we're not so similar in this spot. That's kind of, when people drop their rankings on my ranking videos in the comments, I just sort of look for those commonalities. And then I like to ask, what makes you put blah, blah, blah,
yeah.
like why would I think 2018 was behind Halloween 5. I'm curious to know what about Halloween 5 makes it better than Halloween 2018. That's like, the fascinating part for me is just like, what about those two movies? Like, because Halloween 5 for me just always puts me to sleep. That's one that like by the time that Loomis is like, go home, Michael, like I'm ready to go to sleep at that point.
Do you know, it's funny when you look at people's rankings. Like I saw a ranking once where someone had Halloween at the top, and I'm like, okay, makes sense. Then they had H2O second, and I'm like, brilliant, exact same as me. And then my third is Halloween Ends, but their Halloween Ends on their ranking was dead last. And I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
we were perfect to begin with. And then it's just went from one extreme to the other. That's how
Yeah.
amazing rankings are, that you can have an identical top half, but then the bottom
Mhm.
half could be completely out of place.
Yeah.
And it's just everyone thinks differently. It's crazy how that works.
Well, and I think too, sometimes it's just like depending on, how old you are, I think
Yeah.
sometimes like plays a role in it. Like if you grew up with the Rob Zombie movies, then I've seen some people that rank those as like the best, or they think that say the remake is better than the original. Stuff like that. And it's like, well, yeah, if you were born in the late 90s and
Mhm.
the first scary movie you ever saw was Rob Zombie's Halloween, then maybe it would have the effect that the original had for those of us who, grew up with that one.
Yeah. Adrian also said Halloween 4 would be higher up for me if it looked less like a TV soap opera movie. Do you know, see if it wasn't for the cool atmosphere that we get throughout, I would agree with that. Like, if you
Yeah.
remove that atmosphere from Halloween 4, it does look like a TV movie from the late 80s. Because I've seen a lot of TV movies from the late 80s and the early 90s, and it's got that vibe to it. But it's just
Yeah.
aesthetically, I think Halloween 4 just edges it out because it has got a bit of an atmosphere to it that other
It does.
films that came out back then didn't have, you know? So I agree, and I also not disagree because I agree that it does look like a TV movie at times, but that's the same with H2O. People think it looks like Dawson's Creek, but it doesn't to me. It's just it was filmed round about the same time, probably
Yeah.
with the same or similar equipment, because that's we have to remember Halloween 4 looked like a TV soap opera because it came out of the time where TV soap operas were becoming big and they used the same camera equipment, you know? So it's
Yeah.
hard to differentiate, especially when you're on a small-ish budget, you know? But
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's the budget limitations for sure. But man, they really they picked a good spot. Like shooting in Utah, I think the Salt Lake City area for 4, 5, and 6. I
mhm,
think that was a good call because I think those three movies all have a good atmosphere to them. I mean, particularly 4 and 6. But I think 5 was shot in the same exact place. I just don't know if it was the same time of year, had that kind of look. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's certainly an important part of making a good Halloween film.
yeah,
You know,
mhm. Chris Pilmer said, "Are you heading to For the Love of Horror this year, Barry, with Christian Ann being there?" Yes, I'm definitely going. I did have one person that I was going to get a photograph with, and it was Rebecca Gayheart from Urban Legend and Scream 2, but she's cancelled. So I've got
oh,
nobody
bummer.
on the list. However, if I'm going to meet anyone, it's probably going to be Chris Durand. So if you're there, Chris, you'll probably see me. If I'm in a queue, it will be for Chris Durand. But I tend not to go and get photographs and autographs, sorry, because it takes up a lot of time. And I'm really there
Mhm.
to mingle with people. I want to talk to people about horror films and stuff. So I feel
Yeah,
like I'm best served out of the queues and into the into the fire pit with
that's
everyone
what I.
else.
When I went to H45, I was like, man, it would be cool to meet Danielle and Nick Castle, but it's like hours sitting in that
Mhm.
line. So I
Yeah.
was like, well, I'll meet Rowan Campbell, and I'll meet You know, some of the other performers, Anthony Michael Hall, like the ones that didn't have the like, or just looked out for spots where they didn't have a line and just popped on over.
Yeah, no, I agree. Are you okay for the next 5 minutes or so, David?
Oh yeah,
You,
for sure.
yeah, you okay? Right, cool. I'll read out some more questions, then we can chat there. But we'll wrap it up shortly. Shortly, I was going to say. Um, Adrian said Rachel is better in 4 compared to. She gets an arc where she embraces her relationship with Jamie, whereas Halloween 7 to 8 seems to try separate and isolate Laurie. H2O Laurie, best Laurie. Well, yeah, of course. I agree with all of that, Adrian. Like, I feel like the best incarnation of Laurie Strode is from Halloween H2O. It's the most realistic one, in my opinion. She's not as good as Rachel in terms of Halloween 1 to Halloween 4. But if I look at Laurie's H2O, she's probably my favorite protagonist in the whole franchise. In terms of protagonists, then, Davey, while we're on the subject, who's your favorite protagonist in what film? In,
in
in Halloween
in
film?
Halloween. Oh gosh, that's a good one. I really do like. I think Andy Matichak does a good job in that David Gordon Green trilogy. I think she put in her best performance in Ends. I think like at that point she had gotten her chops up. It seems like maybe she picked up on a couple things from Jamie Lee Curtis, because I feel like Laurie and Allison's characters like have got some commonalities, especially in Ends.
Yeah,
So I guess that's probably my like quick answer, but I do think that Laurie's awesome in H2O. I do really like the portrayal there of her.
yeah,
I don't mind like in 2018, I like that she's sort of got that Sarah Connor vibe or whatever, like cut herself off. But then in the scope of the whole story, it seems like that should have been flipped with the way she was in Ends. She shouldn't have been that way before. So yeah, I think that the H2O Laurie's great. And I really like, Allison in the David Gordon Green movies. Although, man, I wish Vicky made it out of that first movie because I really liked her a lot.
yeah. I thought Vicky was great. She was very charismatic. Have you
Yeah.
seen the film? Um, what's it called again? It's called The Fall. The one with
No.
they go up on the radio tower.
Yeah, I know what
Oh,
you're talking about, but I haven't seen it.
yeah. It's her and the girl from Shazam. That is a edge of your seat movie, and
All
Vicky is
right.
fantastic in it. Two of them are great. Two of them are fantastic in it. And it's an edge of your seat film from the very beginning right up to the very end, and it's also got a really cool twist in it. It's a film that doesn't need a twist, but it has a twist, and
Okay.
you won't see the twist coming. It's really really good. You should watch it. It's definitely worth a watch.
All right. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. She's really charismatic. I think she's really natural. One of
Mhm.
my favorite lines in Halloween 2018 is when she's like, "Oh, I'm so fucking bummed." Like the way that she says that, I'm like, that's the most believable like teenage like way to deliver that line
Mhm.
ever. Really good stuff.
Yeah, one thing I think David Gordon Green done right was whether the characters had a short lifespan or not, he made us care for all of most of the characters
Yeah.
in his trilogy. You kind of like, I remember that one, I remember that person, and I liked them, and
Mhm.
they died, and I didn't want them to die, which means he's done something right. Like I love Cameron. Cameron is one of my favorites,
Yeah.
and the way he died, and the fact that he did die, I was totally like sad. I was almost
Mhm.
as sad as I was when Dewey died in Scream 5. I was like,
Oh,
oh my
wow.
god.
Yeah.
I was like, please don't let Cameron die. Even when he was getting smashed around, I'm like, oh, he could still survive that. Oh, he might still be alive.
Yeah.
And then when he got his head
Yeah.
smushed, I'm like, he might come back. Maybe not.
Yeah, they do a really good job of having like that nice little arc with him that he sort of, a bit of a redemption arc for Cameron. And it's not
Mhm.
just because that's your last name that you like him so much.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. Right, T. Parker Evans has given us his ranking. You ready?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
so this is from best to worst. OG, okay. Ends, okay. Kills,
Wow.
Season of the Witch, H18, H2O, H4, H6, Producer's Cut, H2, 5, Rob Zombie's Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and Resurrection. I enjoy or love all, except for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 and Resurrection. I don't think that's a hot take at all, T. Parker. I think
Yeah.
if you look at an overall estimate of where each and every Halloween film sits, I think that's pretty much it. Apart from Halloween Ends, I think that's more down the lower scale just now for people. And maybe Halloween 6 is, original Halloween 2 is a little bit further up. Switch those two around, and you're probably looking at the most basic and general ranking. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that my ranking has some similar spots to
Same.
yours, T. Parker, for sure. I
Mhm.
think most people would probably be surprised that Kills ranks so high up.
Yeah.
Kills and Ends, I think. Because I feel like it takes a special kind of fan to really appreciate those.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I think the rest of the ranking is kind of right there with what most people would say. Yeah, especially the last three. I guess the hottest take maybe in that whole ranking there is putting the original Halloween 2 so low. That's
Yeah.
probably the hottest spot.
I would say that, yeah, that's the hottest take there, and maybe the second hottest take is putting Halloween Ends in
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
spot, even though it's third spot for me, so it's quite similar,
Yeah.
but it's just too high for certain people at this moment in time. Maybe in about 5 or 10 years, people will come around, but at this moment, top 5 for Halloween Ends is blasphemy for certain
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's good ranking. I like it. Adrian said Halloween 5 is high up for me in spite of its quality. Unhinged Loomis, exaggerations of American culture, and the nonsensical direction allowed me to remove my expectations. It is visually creative. That's one of the well, I got a lot of those comments when I done my anniversary review. Where a lot of people had that opinion where they just run with it and go with it and have fun. And I think if you can
Mhm.
just sit back and enjoy it, rather than going, it's my franchise, I need it to be good.
Mhm.
If you just sit and go, let's just accept it for what it is. All right, it's okay. It's
It
watchable.
it's got, man, when he's wearing the creeper mask in the like over his mask in the car,
Yeah.
and Tina's in there and she's like that moment, like that scene is really tense for me. That's like, to me, that's probably the best that Halloween 5 has to offer there, because the wide eyes that Michael has, so you can see his wide eyes, which always creeps me out. Like the Riddler in the Batman just freaked the hell out of me with his wide eyes. And like when she leans in to kiss him and he like grabs the steering wheel and looks at her like he doesn't even know what to do in that moment. And the fact that her boyfriend's name is Michael. So she's
I
sitting
know.
there being like, Michael. And I'm just like, it's got to be so reminiscent for him of like the Judith scene from the very first movie. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things in Halloween 5 where it's like, it's sort of like, I like asking, what is Michael thinking right now without having an answer. That scene right there, very, very effective. And yeah, Unhinged Loomis, I can dig some of that in Halloween 5 as
I
well,
think
for sure.
I think he's maybe thinking at that moment in time in that car, how does she know my name? How does she know it's me under this mask?
Maybe,
I'll
yeah.
run with this because I quite like Tina. Hey, and he's gripping his steering wheel like, let's go, baby.
He's like, ba-ba-da, 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 ba-ba-da.
Then the next scene, you've got Cookie Woman. And I'm like, what is this
Yeah.
calamity that's going on here?
Big
Nuts.
cookie woman. Yeah. I look, the cops know right away. They're like, oh, yeah, yeah, the drawing of the girl with the cookie tits. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. I go there every day. Evil Alex said H2O School is the house at the end of Scream 3. If
Mhm.
I remember correctly, in general, it had strong Scream vibes beside the great intro with the H6 mask. What
Barry's
does that
about to
mean?
throw up in his mouth.
It
Because
had
they use the H6, the curse mask in the
oh, right, right,
opening
right.
scene.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I thought you meant the location of Scream 3 there. Yeah, yeah, that was a bad mask. Um, but apart from that, yeah,
Oh. But yeah,
yeah,
it is the same it is that same house there.
yeah. They had
The
to.
school grounds.
Oh, that's the swimming pool there, obviously. So they had to cover the swimming
Mhm.
pool with concrete or the ground that they used. And because the schoolhouse, because it's just a house, because it's so small, it's not big enough to be a school. So they had to use the front of the school and the side of the school in two different shots to make it look like it's the same shot to make it feel like a grander, bigger school than it actually
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
watched that Sean Clark video. It was really good. That
yeah, really
horror
interesting.
hallowed grounds or whatever. Yeah, really
One
cool the
thing,
way they made that look.
one thing I love about his video is I always say that the plans for Halloween Resurrection were never in place to say that it was Michael Myers and they choked the person out. Um, I always say that that was planned after the success of Halloween H2O, and that video that Sean Clark done with Chris Duran just kind of further helps my cause, because there was a part where Sean was talking to Chris about the movie, and they said, "Oh, did you play any other roles in the film?" I said, "Yeah, I actually played a paramedic for that scene because I was just doubling because I was a stuntman." But he stopped it there, and I'm like, right, surely if you were supposed to be the paramedic and switched bodies, you would have mentioned that, but he didn't. He's
Mhm.
probably knows nothing about it. He's like, nah, I played a paramedic for that scene because I'm a stuntman. And I'm like, yes, tick that
There it
off.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's another story. I
Oh yeah.
always have debates with people on that. Um, Evil Alex said barn scene and Michael hunting Jamie early in the film between the bed sheets is my favorite. The barn scene. Oh, is this
Wait,
Halloween 4? Oh no,
Halloween. It would be, oh, and 5.
and
Okay.
5. So hunt.
Between the bed sheets. I'm trying to think of what that is. Is that just when she's being chased around through the house?
Maybe. I can't even recall. Hmm.
I love the Nicolas Cage mask in part 5. Michael Myers. I'm gonna steal a Declaration of Independence.
Oh, I was trying to think of something that says, oh yeah, I can eat a peach for hours.
I could eat a dog for hours.
I could stay silent for hours.
I'm gonna take his face off.
Hmm. Supposed to be doing a face off too, apparently.
Oh my god.
I'll watch
Oh,
it.
imagine that.
I'll watch it. It looks like everyone's just talking about Halloween 5 now. The laundry
Yeah.
shoot scene in 5. There we go. That's for another video though. This is Halloween 4. This is us basically saying that Davey is wrong and I am right in terms of
I
this
am
video.
wrong about Halloween 4. Yeah, and what kind of video could you do about Halloween 5? Could you even do a video? I guess if you hopped on with Nick from the Lost River Drive-In, you could do a video on how Halloween 5 is underrated because he loves that movie.
Oh,
I don't
really?
get it, but he loves that movie. It's one of his favorites in the franchise.
It's funny
So
when I talk about all Halloween films, I know someone who loves a film in the franchise, but
yeah.
I've never met anyone who's loved Halloween 5. So that would be an interesting one.
Yeah,
That's
I'll shoot you his one of his videos on it because yeah, he would be a great guest for Double Scoops, like in defense of Halloween 5.
wow. It would just be a one-way conversation because I would just sit there and listen because I'd be
There you
like,
go.
"Mm, I've
Just
got
get your
nothing to say."
popcorn and 3D glasses on.
Because I'd be like, I've got nothing to say about Halloween 5 other than it's shit. Or I don't know. Do you guys
I
say
love
shit?
one last thing about Halloween 5. Michael, the boyfriend Michael, he's supposed to be like so tough and everything. The guy just seems like the scrawniest nerd that they just put in a leather jacket and gave him like a 50s like slicked back hair.
Yeah. What
Like
was
I'm
that all
like,
about?
this guy's supposed to be tough. Like he doesn't seem very tough to me, you know?
Nah, he's
Yeah.
not.
I'm
And
not
he's
saying
died.
I'm tough. That's why I know he's not tough because
Yeah.
I'm not. We can smell our own.
Yeah. He died like a wussy as well.
He
Did you
did a
notice
little
in that?
garden weasel to the head.
Yeah, did you notice in that scene it was kind of cut when you see that going through his head? The scene jittered.
There's a weird little jarring of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because they had to cut the scene and then put it in and then
Oh yeah.
bring the scene back. It's something that it's the best they could do at that time back in the.
And there's another weird, like when he's laying on the ground, there's another weird, like little, it seems like a little shake. Oops, sorry, shake of the camera, like on his legs too. There's a whole weird, twitchy vibe there.
I didn't even notice that part, but I just that one was very obvious when they went in.
Yeah,
As soon as it happened, I knew exactly why they done it like that, even as a youngster. And then
sure.
looking back, you're like, yeah, that's obvious that they had to do that because if they'd done it for real, the man would be dead. Dead, dead.
No
Uh,
great
I th-
loss.
yeah, no, no great loss. That's a shame. So I think we're all kind of caught up as well. Oh, we've got another comment here. T. Parker said, "Do you know that the locations of the bars used in Kills and Scream 5 were filmed across from each other in Wilmington?"
Oh shit, that's
I didn't know
crazy.
that. Is that North
I did not
Carolina,
know that.
NC?
Yeah.
Yeah,
hmm
I didn't know that. But then they do look similar when you think about it, don't they?
Yeah, and I think the North Carolina and South Carolina have got like a really good deal for filming. You know, they make it very friendly for people to go out for productions to go out there and shoot. So
Mm.
I guess I'm not surprised that they would use similar areas.
Yeah. Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, so we're all caught up then, Davey, and I think we've kind of gave our points for Halloween 4. And again, I totally appreciate everything you've said about Halloween 4. As much as I disagree with a lot of it, I still appreciate that you've given your reasons as to why you not that you don't like the film, you think it's okay.
Yeah.
You just think, yeah, it's a bit overrated for me, which is fair enough. Absolutely fine. But again, thanks for coming on, David, for another episode of Double Scoops. I'm sure I'll have you on again for a Double Scoops episode because I feel like we think the complete opposite about every Halloween film. So it's always interesting
Yeah.
having you on. We can bounce off each other.
If you want to talk about something we feel similarly about, you can have me on for the morgue and we can talk about Scream 4 because I really dig that one. And it
There
sounds
you go.
like you dig that one as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I love the it's I don't even think of them as hot takes, but it is fun to jump in with you and have a chat about Halloween and just it invigorates the conversation. So
Mhm.
yeah, thanks so much for having me on again.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. And as usual, Davey, if there's anyone in the chat that doesn't know who you are, then let everybody know where can they find you and what you're up to.
Yeah, it's really easy. You just look up Davey Deathray on all the socials and here on YouTube. So, we just crossed 1,100 subs just the other day over on the channel. I do a lot of lives. I have a like my flagship show is on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. It's called Late Night with the Davey. And that is basically like a late night talk show kind of format where I bring on like a content creator or an actor, a writer, filmmaker, and we have a general discussion, talk a little bit about what they do, but also just sort of talk about everything. Love interacting with the chat over there. I've got a whole bunch of content lined up for October, so if you check out the channel, there's plenty of streams to catch here this month. Tonight, I'll be talking about The Lost Boys with my buddy Foz Rotten. We're going live at 8 p.m. Eastern. We have a show called Movie Punks. So once a month, we hop on and we talk about a movie that's got like a punk rock edge. And we'll be talking about The Lost Boys tonight. So really looking forward to that. And follow me on Insta, Twitter, whatever. But most importantly, here on YouTube is where I'm most active.
Yeah, excellent. I'll put your link on the. I always put the link in the title. I can make it clickable, which is cool, and in the
Hell yeah.
description as well. I don't even think I've checked, but have you done a movie punks episode of Return of the Living Dead 3?
We haven't done 3. We did the original Return of the
Yeah,
Living Dead like right around 4th of July, but we
yeah.
haven't done 3 yet. In fact, I still need to watch part 3. I've never seen it. I've heard it's really good.
Oh,
I've heard it's
that's
really, really good.
right. Okay, that's why you've not thought about that then as a kind of punk rock film. That's totally punk. It takes the vibe
Okay.
back to the original. It's more serious than the original, but yeah, it's very very punk rock. And do you know
Sweet.
Do you know Melinda Clark from the OC?
Yes. Yep.
Julie, mum Julie,
hmm
she's the
Yeah.
main star in it. And oh my god,
She's just a little hot.
if you thought Kelly Mika was hot, then Jesus,
All right.
you've got a
Sounds
lot
like
to look
I'm
forward to.
sounds like I'm going to be in trouble once I watch that one for sure.
Yeah, unbelievable. I fell in love with her. I think I would have married her there and then. She's so good. But yeah,
Nice. Hell yeah.
definitely check that out. Whether you do it for movie punks or not, you should definitely check out.
I
It's
need to see it. I've seen the first 2. I just haven't seen that one or
mm,
anything beyond.
yeah, I've not seen anything beyond either, but I hear they're not worth it. But 1, 2, and 3 are really good films. But
All
yeah,
right. Putting it on the list.
put it on the list, a growing list that I've got. I've got 250 movies on my watch list right now. I just can't get through them all. And anytime I watch 2, 3 of them get added, and I
Sure.
watch 5, 10 get added. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's never ending. But
Just Before Dawn and Return of the Living Dead 3. There we go.
yeah, Just Before Dawn, Return of the Living Dead 3, absolutely. Solvent says, sub to Davey, yay.
Thank you so much, Solvents. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you'll enjoy his content, Solvents. I hardly ever get to watch your Late Night with the Davies because it's late night and it's bedtime for me. But the other morning, I was taking my wife and kids to the airport or the bus stop for the airport. So we had to go up super early. But super early for me was like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. So you were still live at that point on your channel. So I saw it live. I couldn't watch it because I was getting ready to take them out. I was like, oh, Davey's on. It must be really early.
Yeah, it's just every now and then I go so late. I've even seen the Twisted Locker guys jump on and they're like getting ready for work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame because we are so far apart. You're 8 hours difference. Sometimes it's fine if you're afternoon and I'm evening, which is fine, like just now, but it's rubbish because I would like to do my videos at the evening time US because most of my viewers are at nighttime. I think 68% of my subscribers and viewers are from the US. And most of those US people are from California. Hey,
there it is.
But it's a shame because anytime I want to do a live stream for my peak viewers, it's just the wrong time all the time.
Yeah, middle of the night. And I set everything for Eastern too, even though I'm on, out in Arizona. So it's like, I even, live and die by that as well, because you want those people to be able to check it out. So just how it goes. But yeah, we'll get you. I have an offshoot series called Late Night with the Davey Before Dark, where I do like pre-recorded vids. So, we'd be able to get you on Late Night with the Davey in some sort of manner if we do something like that. So we could do a little something pre-recorded or, even just doing stuff over here on your channel. I think it's works out pretty well also.
Yeah, no, totally. Anytime, just ask. Not a problem at all. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for being with us for over 2 hours. Sometimes when you do these live chats, it just goes in like that and you don't realize how long it's been. But I always try and keep it to around about 2 hours because I know that some people just kind of drop off after that and just want to go away or have some dinner or whatever. But
we've all got lives to lead, right?
We have, exactly. And I've got movies to watch after this as well, which is cool. But yeah, thanks to the chat for coming in, checking us out, asking questions, talking amongst yourselves. It's always a pleasure. And of course, to Davey as well for having Davey on, spending his time with me and taking time out of your day, Davey, to come and chat. So
absolutely. I've been a fan for a really long time. So each one of these is surreal and super awesome. If there's anyone in the chat or anyone that's watching after the fact and you're like, gosh, I've got something to say, I should start my own YouTube channel. Do it, because I wanted to do this like 10 or 15 years ago and I didn't do it. I waited and I waited. And if you had told me that less than a year into my run that I'd be jumping on streams with somebody like Barry that I've been watching for years, I would have jumped on it sooner. So don't hesitate. This community is awesome. It's filled with incredible people. So yeah, that's my little commercial for anyone that's thinking about getting going. Just shoot that first video and you'll catch the bug for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely just do it. And I think everyone's so welcoming. You quickly realize who are the the people to speak to, and you see people that are there. You're kind of like, should I approach them? Sometimes people are approachable, sometimes they're not. If somebody starts to get a little bit too big for the boots, then they'll just disappear, and that's fine. They can just go away. It's fine. But I think the community that we're in just now is really welcoming, and everyone's willing to help each other, which is always a good thing. So yeah, there's no wrong time to come and do this. If you feel like you're doing it too late, then you're not, because you've done it now. Whether it's you, Davey, or someone else, someone's got to start somewhere and just build it up from there. So
absolutely,
really good community. But you stay with me just for a minute, Davey. I'll just get the outro going and we can call it a day. But anyway, guys,
y'all.
Yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
I'll be right back. What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back!